Hello, everybody. Welcome to MC Toon Live. I'm your host, MC Toon, and my kid just came in with the puppy. Like, hey, you want to show the puppy? I'm like, hold on a second. I go to live first. I uh, my computer was a bunch of stuff was not working right for a second. I had to fix it all, and that's what there was a little delay. But welcome, everybody. I will be reviewing. This is the second part of WItsit versus Harrison from yesterday. So I it was a little scramble to get stuff because it didn't go. Okay, yeah, bring the puppy. Okay. Oh, there we go. There's Penguin. Hello. I washed Penguin today. I was woken up to the sound of Penguin barking. Yes, penguins bark. This penguin does. And my wife texting me saying, "Hey, Penguin's feet are all muddy. Can you wash her quick?" So I did. So look how clean she is, but a little shaggy. So we're gonna have to wash. We're gonna cut her hair. So all right, thank you. There you go. All right, there you go. And the other one's under the desk. So maybe I'll grab him later. Okay. So if you are unaware of what it is, there it is. What it is that I'm doing, it's the debate from yesterday. Witsit was on with Harrison, debating Harrison. Harrison is one of the hosts on the I don't like saying it. Alex Jones, who's a disgusting Sandy Hook denier person, hoaxer. So Harrison is on that network. So associated with that guy probably buys all the same junk that Alex does. So, but they debated. So who do you vote for? Who do you root for? Right? It's like it's two hobos fighting to see who gets the honor of dropping trow and singing Jimmy Crack Corn on the corner of Podunk, Mississippi. Said that yesterday. It's the same today. So anyway, we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. So if you have any questions, you feel free to tag me in the comments. That's right here, right there. It'll come up there. If you tag me, I'll see it right there. Just like when Greg Lott went against Dean Odell. Yeah. Yep. Well, what do you say? Like, who do you... It's not quite the same. Little different. But the Venn diagrams overlap a lot. So when are we going to get that celestial navigation debate with Witsit? Never. He ran away from it. Austin Witsit challenged me to debate him on celestial navigation and then instantly ran away and said, "Oh, I was asking for somebody else." Turns out that somebody else is Shane St. Pierre, who was going to debate Ozian today, but they were quite rude, and Ozian's like, "All right, I'm out. You guys are jerks." But the reality is, though, that Witsit doesn't need to proctor a debate between me and Shane, because myself and Shane, we have a communication mechanism between us. Witsit's not that. He's not the communication channel. We talk to each other on Discord or Twitter or email. There's many ways that we have exchanged communications before, myself and Shane St. Pierre. So if Shane wants to debate me about celestial navigation, he knows how to communicate with me. I might at some point request that to him, and we'll see what kind of insanity he comes up with. The Sun Express, in such situation, one does not root for any hobo. Hammered down policy. So where was Oz and Shane? Ozian and Shane were going to debate on Jaren's, but it did not happen. So that's that. Okay, so I have let's see. I got to make sure that I have the size correct, and I want to have the logo off screen like I did yesterday. There it is. See, I'm not going to give them that little bit of something. There you go. All right. Sweet. I did it just right. I love see how well I positioned that. Yep. It's not that I'm an expert at it. It's just that it's really easy to do. So here it is. This is about the second part of their debate. They're about halfway through. So, but before that, I just wanted to play this. I just wanted to play this.
I think I've done pretty well in the debates, and typically the opponents are not all that worthy. Humbly.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught that. Let me play it again.
I think I've done pretty well in the debates, and typically the opponents are not all that worthy. Humbly.
Fun fact, that camera he's using is a specially manufactured extra super duper wide angle lens to fit his gigantic ego head in the frame. Yep. Humbly. The humble brag. One more time? How about that?
I think I've done pretty well in the debates, and typically the opponents are not all that worthy. Humbly.
Yeah, you're not humble, Austin. That was one of the most prideful things ever spoken by any human on the globe ever. All right, well, here we go.
Band.video. I'm your host, Harrison Smith. My guest is Austin WItsit.
Oh, yeah, and it's 1.5 speed.
WItsit gets it on X, at WItsit gets it, and his website, witsitgetsit.com. And, of course, he's done this debate many times. This is my first to go, but I've watched many of your debates, and I have to tell you, some are infuriating, some are extremely entertaining, and I'm always torn in the middle, because the flat Earth people I always like more personally, but I just don't think they're right. I'm torn by this. But let's talk about some of the other issues that I see constantly brought up, like some of the main arguments for flat Earth, in favor of flat Earth, things like the curvature, seeing over the horizon, air next to a vacuum.
Now here's this is the important thing. Now, it doesn't take a soothsayer to figure this out. WItsit in this entire debate never one time presented any bit of evidence for flat Earth. And I want you to remember that he is proposing that the Earth is flat. He has a positive claim that the Earth is flat. And he never once, I know, no spoilers, but never once does he actually one time even attempt to produce any bit of flat Earth evidence.
I mean, these things I see brought up over and over, but they really don't seem that complicated to me. For example, being able to see over the horizon, I think you brought that up in your opening. The issue is not that you can occasionally see in certain circumstances and under certain conditions, you can see farther than maybe mathematically, geometrically, using platonic solids, you should seemingly be able to see. That's not the issue, that you have occasional times where you can see farther than you think you should be able to. The issue is that if the Earth was flat, you should always be able to see significantly farther than we can. I mean, how is it that on a flat Earth model, you can't see things thousands of miles away, hundreds of miles away, or even just tens of miles away on a normal day? I mean, what would explain that other than the curvature of the Earth?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's something called attenuation. So
all right. Well, let me finish what he says here while I search for this.
Light is absorbed into a medium, right? That's why you can't see the Hollywood sign from just a few miles away, right? I don't encourage anyone going and trying that. Just take my word for it. Stay out of there. But anyway, my point is, you can't see forever, right? The opacity of the atmos. There's actually a very famous observation of the Canigou Mountains.
Okay, the opacity of the atmos. He can't even say atmosphere. All right, well, here is a photo I took myself with the Nikon P1000. You see right there in the middle that it's hard to make out, but that is indeed a boat. There's a little larger version of it. It's the same picture right there. It's a fishing vessel of some sort, I believe. So then I zoomed in. When I zoomed in, the same amount. This is pixel for pixel on my screen. This is about halfway zoomed in. The same amount of the boat was obstructed. Now here's the full zoom in. And I mean, it doesn't even fit on the screen here. It's zoomed in so far, right? But the same amount of the boat was obstructed. And attenuation does not explain why the bottom is missing. Attenuation makes things less bright. That's what happens when things are less bright. When they're attenuated, they're less bright. When light is attenuated. So it's not less bright. And in fact, think about this. The bottom of the boat for flat Earth and the globe, the bottom of the boat is closer than the top of the boat. So it can't be angular resolution, because the angular resolution at the bottom of the boat is bigger than the angular resolution at the top of the boat because it's farther away. The reason why I know it's farther away is because I was about 10 to 15 feet above the water, and that boat is more than that. So the farthest away point of that boat is the top of the mast or top of that structure. So, hello? Oh, we've got another one.
Do you have Donkey?
Yes, Donkey's down there. Okay, this is Turtle. Hello, Turtle. Say hello. He has no clue what's going on since Donkey showed up. You're gonna make some noise. You're so good. All right, there you go. All right, good boy. Good boy. All right, thank you. All right. Daryl's funny. He's so noisy sometimes. Anyway, so it's not attenuation here. There's something blocking it. There's something in between the observer and the boat. Now, for flat Earth, they come up with a whole bunch of word salad. That's all it is. It's just word salad. And of course, this is what WItsit is in the middle of doing right now. But attenuation doesn't explain it. Angular resolution doesn't explain it. Ramping doesn't explain it. Refraction doesn't do it because refraction causes distant things to be slightly higher, not lower. What is it that's causing this? Word salad is all we get.
From hundreds of miles away, and you can't see them until the sun sets behind the mountains. And then because that light is so much brighter and you have the contrast of the shadow of the mountains, you can see them. And they should be miles below the curvature of the Earth.
And there is another lie. So the standard, say this, the standard flat Earth claim, it's the most common one. It's the one they reach for the most often. It is the globe predicts, and then something the globe does not predict. This observation does not match the thing the globe does not predict, therefore flat. And there's two problems with that, of course. First, it's a straw man, and second, it's a false dichotomy. The straw man being that they never, ever, ever do the correct prediction for the globe. So should be miles below the horizon. No, it should not. Canigou should not be miles below the horizon. There is a way to predict it. They don't do it right. So, yes, Mr. E-Man, I'm hoping we do get I hope that Nathan shows up. That would be great. Anyway, so it's dishonesty or it's idiocy. It's one or the other. Because we keep telling them that's not the right way to predict the amount of obstruction. You need to include the confounding variables, and they refuse to ever include them. We tell them they won't do it. We say use Walter Bislin's advanced Earth curve calculator. It's the one that's the best. It includes the options for a variable amount of refraction. And how much refraction was there? Well, you could measure it. They don't want to do that. There's two experiments that they measured it. They did not then do the right analysis from it. So anyway, that's what, let me, while I'm here, while I'm on pause, I'll scroll back here. We've got Ian Reagan for £5 says, Mike, have you considered debating moon landing deniers? The Apollo Detective Channel is a good example of some of the deep they espouse, or the derp. I have, and I have done a few peripheral ones. I have actually I have a book here on it. I have a few things, and certainly it happens because flat earthers have to blanket deny it as well. So yeah, there's a few things I have considered on that, and as maybe flat earth does its dying gasp, or maybe as I gain interest in broadening, then yes, that's certainly in the making. So Mr. E-Man gifted 5 memberships. Thank you to Mr. E-Man. Kango44 for 5 New Zealand dollars says WItsit is using a camera. All cameras impose curvature, right? So why is WItsit's head not a big curve? I don't know how he fit his big head into the frame there. Timbo Lynch says, on my way from Ireland to Australia in 4 hours. I'm looking forward to see Scandinavia and most of Asia from above, as the Flurf map predicts. Exactly. Oh, I love the WItsit was just talking about you have attenuation, yet Taboo Conspiracy, so one of his buddies, says you can see 700 miles. Which is it? Can you see 700 miles or can you not see 700 miles because of reasons? If nothing is in the way, you should be able to see it, right? And yes, air does at a low elevation does do stuff. So go to the top of a mountain, from the top of or even better, an airplane. When you're in an airplane, you should easily see over Europe, all of Europe. You should be able to see all of it. No, you can't. Anyway, all right. Zach Morgan says for $20, says appreciate your total demolition of your opponents due to your hard work. You also have the exact same voice as John Ritter. John Ritter from Three's Company. I tell you, I really liked him. So that's a good compliment. Thank you for that. I always thought that John Ritter also looked a little bit like Steve Jobs. And both of them have gone to the great beyond. So sadly, they've both gone. But yeah, Three's Company. I remember watching Three's Company. That was a interesting show. I didn't understand it when I watched it. I was a kid. I'm like, what's going on? Why do they have to pretend? I don't understand. Anyway, I do now. I get it now. Otto says the worst person you know just made a good point. That's in quote. So I don't know what that's quoting, but yeah, I mean that's a weird thing watching Harrison, who I don't know I don't know how to react to how much, he did a good job. Brenda Debates mentioned it. Check art text chat, says Chris. What's art text chat? I don't know what art text chat is. All right, well, hold on a second. Let me check Facebook Messenger. I just checked Discord, nothing there. Regular, no, not there. I don't know what you're talking about, Chris. Email? Let me check email. No, not email. I don't know what you're talking about. So, okay, I'm going to keep going. Chris, maybe you can specify where I need to look. There's too many. There's Twitter, and then maybe there's my MC Tune Facebook page. I don't use that one much. If you want to talk to me, that's not the one, because I'm not going to respond too quickly there. Anyway, Screwy Louie for £5 says, I wonder how many hours a day WItsit spends rehearsing his word salad in the mirror. Well, if you are on Discord, you could potentially go count the hours of the day. I'm not on Discord much. If you ever like send me a message on there, it could be a while before I respond. I have all notifications turned off. So I never know. If you send me a message on Discord, I won't know until I log in. Which I do on occasion, but like throughout the day, I'm working and stuff. Every once in a while, I'll pop in and see if there's messages, and sometimes I'll jump around in a couple different servers. And what I've done, I kind of like check different servers, and sometimes I'll go through the different Flat Earth servers, and I'll go, oh look who's there, WItsit. Later, WItsit. Let me go work for a few more hours. Come back, WItsit. Okay, well I'm gonna go do stuff with the family for a few hours. WItsit. Let me spend the evening with my family, and then come back and go, oh, who's in the Discord, Flat Earth Discord server? WItsit. So I think what you'll find there, Screwy Louie, is that he doesn't maybe do it in the mirror, but he does it constantly all day long on Discord. I don't know. I don't jump into voice chat to hear him talking to verify that he's not just like there with not participating. So I don't know. All right, demonic leprechaun. Oh, my Discord server. All right, I'm jumping to my Discord server in the general chat, and all right, here we go. I don't know. If you want to send me a message, that's not the place to send me a message. Yeah. I have too many notifications on Discord. Look, on FTFE server, I have 962 notifications unread. I'm never gonna read them. 307 on my own Discord server. Yeah, sorry. Hello, the conspiracist. Oh, dude, I owe you some videos. I should do that tonight. Yeah, there's too many communication methods for me. So I as time goes on, I'm less and less responsive. My worst responsiveness is on email. If you have an idea for something that you want to do, don't send it to me on email. Go to my Discord server, jump in there and say, hey, everybody, I think I have a cool idea. Who wants to participate? That's the best way. Do I check my carrier pigeons? Yes. Well, I'm waiting for my pigeon right now. I'm still doing the TCP, setting up the TCP stream for TCP over carrier pigeon. It's been a couple weeks, so I don't know. All right, hold on a second. Okay, let me finish this, and we got to get back to WItsit's derpitude. All right, Chris says, "Did you see the Temple of Toon in Discord under a shoot the poop general chat? Make shirt for this." Oh, okay. General under shoot the poop. On my Discord server, in general, there's a shoot the poop. I don't know, dude. All right, let me just scroll. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, from yesterday. WItsit did a super chat to Jaren. Said he asked, "Hey Toon, can you attribute physical properties to conceptual abstractions? Isn't that reification?" So that's a straw man. So that's how his idiocy mind understands general relativity. He imagines that it's attributing physical properties to conceptual abstractions. No, general relativity is not. So he says he breaks space-time into two independent words and then uses the wrong definitions for them. So he'll use space. He's like, space, that's outer space. That's an absence of matter. That's not what the space in space-time means, but whatever. And then time, he's like, well, that's an abstraction. That's not what space-time means. Space-time is a four-dimensional coordinate system for our reality, and it's been empirically confirmed. So check our text chat in your Discord server from Chris. I'm in general. Nothing. The last one in general is greetings, you scientifics. In my individual DMs on Discord, I have 4 unread. So let me. I don't see any from Chris. If you have a different name in there, I'm sorry. I'm not going to recognize. I can't map everybody's name. I'm sorry. So I don't know what to say, Chris. Are you Lael? Is this Lael, right? Did you see the Temple of Toon in Discord? Yes, I think I think Chris is Lael. And no, I did not see it. And send me a DM if you want me to find it. I'm not going to hunt for it. I can't. I'm never going to find it. All right. Well, while you send me a DM, I will go back to WItsit. So thank you.
So even in the globe paradigm, right, why can't we see the mountains before that? Well, it's because the atmos between us and the mountains are blocking the light. It's being absorbed, right, until you had a bright enough light to see it. So that's it's pretty simple. We wouldn't see forever on a flat Earth. That's a misconception.
Okay, but we would be.
It would. You're right, but it would not be. You wouldn't have a crisp horizon. You'd have things that would just blur. If it's attenuation or atmos, air, blocking it, it just get blurry. Just turn into a blurry mess.
Be able to see significantly further than we can. I mean, the average, view distance for the horizon's like 2 or 3 miles, right? But when I fly on a plane, planes typically fly at about 6 to 8 miles off the surface of the planet. I can look down. I'm looking through atmosphere, and I can see the ground perfectly well. So how is it?
See that this isn't a good one from Harrison, because he said looking straight down. That's not the thing. You can look to the horizon, and you definitely do see a much farther horizon when you're on an airplane. And also, it does show you that horizon right near the edge there, unless the conditions are right. It's blurry. A lot of the time, it's blurry. So, and you're looking potentially, depending on how high you are, multiple hundreds of miles potentially. So, yeah, that's what you see, blur.
That our view distance isn't at least 6 or 8 miles, since I know from my own personal experience that I can see through the atmosphere for 6 to 8 miles when I'm in a plane.
Well, first of all, we see way further than 6 to 8 miles, right? I mean, it's not that sometimes we see too far. It's that almost every day you're going to see too far. The globe model actually says that on average you see at least 15 to 20% too far. That's the average. But on a plane.
And that right there falsifies flat Earth. He's talking 20% too far for the globe. The non-refracted globe. And remember, WItsit,
refraction always happens. That's why it's important.
Yep.
Refraction, which we immediately and adamantly claim is always present, because there's temperature fluctuation and atmospheric conditions that are consistently affecting what you perceive. There
you go. And if you're not going to take that into account, then you're just lying, aren't you, WItsit? So you don't see farther than we should see. We never do. We see the exact amount that we should see on the globe, because you never take into account refraction, even though you said...
I'm claiming that you haven't even actually accounted for all the variables, and you're touting your trigonometry that literally hand waves dismiss one of the most important variables when it comes to perception, which is refraction.
One of the most important variables when it comes to perception, and that is refraction, and they never include it. So that's the deal. It's that double standard.
And you're looking straight down vertically through the atmos, right? And we have like density layers. So looking out horizontally through it, certainly closer to the surface, is going to be way more compounding, denser medium that's going to block your light. So it's not the same as looking straight down through it. I will say also, my boy Jaron, he looked up, or he went and made an observation in California like a week ago, and no one could see the mountains, right? They were 75 miles away. They were 75 feet up. They should have been blocked by hundreds and hundreds of feet of earth curvature. No one could.
Not blocked by hundreds and hundreds of feet. Again, they pretended that refraction didn't happen.
See them. So one might clap their hands and say, look, the Earth's a globe, we can't see the mountains. But then they pulled out their infrared camera and they could see the mountains. So what that proves, even if you thought the Earth was a globe, is that the atmosphere is actually blocking the mountains. The light.
So it's a good point there. It was not a clear day, and the infrared was able to get a better view through the not clear conditions. They were hoping for the sun to set and it would be clear behind the mountains. I haven't seen the footage yet. Jaron said he's going to send it to me, so I hope he does. I hope he gets the raw footage to me. I'd love to look at it and have a chance to actually analyze it. And the things that I have done, I'm glad to share with anybody who wants them as well. So I have a whole folder of observations if people are interested. Maybe I should just publish that whole folder in Dropbox, and that people can just peruse it at will. I suppose that might be interesting.
From the mountains, you can't see them until you put out infrared, which cuts through a lot of the haze. It only has a small spectrum of light, a longer wavelength of light, and you're able to see it with less obstruction. So that's pretty simple. Also, this picture they're showing right here is also not proof that the Earth's a globe, because
of course it is.
if you look at the same shadow in a plane, you'll actually see that it's out parallel below you. And it's
Okay, the same shadow on a plane. I've never seen any flat earther present this picture here taken from an airplane. So how is it that he just made that claim? I don't know. That does not seem to quite fit. And no, you don't. You don't. But there are different instances of this particular similar photo where sometimes the mountain is poking up through the clouds, like this one, and sometimes the mountain is below the clouds, and it's and there's a gap between the top of the mountain and the cloud and the shadow. And this is the problem, though. His claim is that the shadow is through a thin layer of clouds. And I don't know. Let's grant that for a second. I don't know if that's the case here. I'm not buying it. I think that this is a thick layer of clouds, but let's grant that for a second. How does that work for flat Earth? Because if the sun is above the mountain, it has to be, because I don't know of any flat earther that says that the sun is lower than a mountain like this. This is Mount Rainier. So since to my knowledge this doesn't exist, how is it that this is possible? I'm gonna draw something. I don't have my Sharpie. Where'd my Sharpie go? All right. I'll use a regular old pen. So how is it that this works? It doesn't work, but I'll draw it. We've got, there you go. You can look at it while I draw it. You've got the mountain here, and you've got the cloud layer here. Right? Okay. Let me give you a little bit of my artwork. There you go. You got the mountain. I'll make it a little thicker. There you go. You got the clouds and the mountain, and it's really thin layer there. So, okay. Now, where's the sun on flat Earth? Where's the sun? Is the sun at the same elevation as the clouds? Right? No more than 10 miles up? Well, that would be pretty ridiculous because how could a 10-mile high sun, how could that happen? How could a 10-mile high sun be seen from everywhere at a high elevation? For example, in Minneapolis on the equinox, it's 45 degrees high. If the sun were only 10 miles high, the GP of the sun would have to be 10 miles south of me in Minneapolis. Well, clearly that's not the case because people in Florida look south and see the sun on the same day. And they're a large number of miles or kilometers south of me. That doesn't work. The sun must be really high. So I'll draw the sun high, disproportionately low, actually. It's still too low by scale, but I'll grant that it's maybe only, I don't know, we're going to make it not very low. So how does that shadow right there, how is that being cast? Are they claiming that the top of the mountain is sticking up above the clouds and that then the shadow is going this direction here? That this is the shadow right here and that it's casting that shadow on the clouds from above? But wait a second. That picture doesn't make sense then, because it gets wider, not narrower, as it gets farther away. Now, you could say, well, that's due to perspective. Yes, things that are closer are larger. They do appear larger. They're not are larger. But that continues to get larger. And in the pictures that are zoomed out a little more, you see it gets more and more and more. It doesn't actually go to the point. So that doesn't work. Plus, the angle still would not work because the tip of that mountain isn't sticking up enough for this angle. For this angle to work right here. right? Because the sun has got to be significantly higher on flat Earth. So somehow the light rays would have to, even for that, would have to do this curving thing, right? The azimuthal grid of vision lie would have to be invoked to somehow magically, inexplicably cause the light rays to bend like that. But we know that doesn't happen in reality, because in reality, light will bend the opposite direction. Because at 100,000 feet, not much higher than, right? A mountain is a quarter of that. A tall mountain is almost, right? So I don't know how tall Mount Rainier is. Let's say it's 10 times higher than Mount Rainier, and you basically have no air. So you've got dense air here, thin air here. That means that the light is going to bend towards the denser medium, so it's actually going to bend this direction. So that didn't work for you. None of it works for you, flat earthers. And this shows, right? What have they done? Well, they've been trained in that, what they're doing when they're sitting on their Discord servers and what they're doing when they're sitting in their echo chambers. They are training themselves how to what magical phrases and what word salads to present when impossible things are presented that debunk flat Earth. That's what they do. So they deflect, they get off of this, they run from the actual topic. So, all right, Mount Rainier is 14,000 feet tall. So I was safe saying that it's 10,000 and that 100,000 feet is 10 times higher than Mount Rainier. And so the light would bend the other direction. So thank you for that, Borg Emporia. It doesn't work. How is it? But there's nothing. And no flat earther has ever presented a diagram of how this can work. The only thing they ever do is they say, well, it could be bouncing off the ground. Now I've looked it up. To the west of Mount Rainier is trees and cities, nothing that's very reflective. So trees and cities would not cause light to bounce at that type of intensity, and certainly not at that type of focus, right? When you have reflections off of rough surfaces, you get a diffuse light pattern. It's not crisp like that. So that doesn't explain it either. But let's listen to his lie.
It's merely a perspective thing.
Okay, but where's the sun in
It's a perspective thing.
that picture? I mean, and you even said the sun sets below the mountains in the last example that you used, but that doesn't make sense. I mean, the sun doesn't set on a flat Earth model; it just moves away from you, right?
Well, it moves away from you and then looks like it's going down. Just like if you see a plane flying towards you, it looks like it's going up. Then as it flies away, it looks like it's going down. Or if you look down a long street, you'll see street lights look like they're going down. They're all the same height, though, right? It's just perspective. The same reason that a hallway.
Okay, so perspective doesn't fix it, though. Perspective makes things appear to be to shrink in distance, but it doesn't actually make the light come from a different location. Perspective doesn't do that. Again, another just and is he too dumb to understand it, or is he lying? You take your pick.
Hallway converges. The sun does the same thing. Naturally, we have many observations of the sun disappearing above the horizon. So the sunset happens above the horizon.
Oh yeah, that. So I was tweeting when he said this. Hold on a second. Mount Rainier. So Shifty Eyes Shady is a flat earther, and we get along pretty well. And Shifty sent this message, this link to. Oh, it's just a link to, the height of Rainier. Yep. So, you know why? Here's. Listen up, other moderators. Shifty got promoted to be a moderator because Shifty is a decent person, and was getting timed out and blocked for not for good reasons. Right? For the most part, when a flatty shows up in the chat here, and Shifty wasn't being horrible, but when they do. Unless they're really, really being bad, really out there, let it stay. Let it stay. It's a testament to how horrible they are if they're coming in being horrible. I take pictures, I take screenshots of their horrible stuff regularly. And in fact, I'll show you a page I just put up. you're gonna like the name. I just put it up today. There you go. This page here. So if you ever wonder, I mean, this is a bit of a blanket statement, but it's not absolute. But there you go. There is a bunch of flat earthers being horrible, terrible, awful, evil people, right there, and it just goes and goes and goes. And goes. Not organized there at all, so there it is. There it is. That's what I think. That's my philosophy on it. When they're going to be horrible, let them be horrible, and let's document it. So, but Shifty is not. So Shifty gets through. Shifty gets to be a mod. So anyway, Eddie Reese says Mount Rainier is 13,489 feet taller than Lake Titicaca is deep. I saw a clip of Beavis and Butthead, and Beavis had gotten some, when he gets when he gets caffeine, he turns into Cornholio, and he needs TP for his bunghole, right? He pulls his shirt up over his head, and he was saying Titicaca. I need to get that clip. Can somebody find out what particular episode that is? I'm going to grab it and get the clip. All right.
So that actually perfectly matches plain Earth. The sun is just small, local, moving away from us. Looks like it's going down and then disappears into the distance. But on a globe, it should always be going behind the physical curved horizon. We see the sun disappear above the horizon.
We see
Oh yeah, that never happens.
the sun disappear above the horizon.
Yeah, yep.
Not any sunsets I've seen. I see it disappear below the horizon.
More rare.
But I mean, look, if the table, this tabletop is
here's the thing that flat earthers really miss. The sun doesn't need, for them, it doesn't need to set above the horizon every once in a while. It needs to set above the horizon every single time. Every time. Unless there's some sort of a wild atmospheric thing. So it could be maybe the an exception. Occasionally it could happen. But in reality, this is what happens every day. The sun sets at full size over the horizon. And if there are sometimes conditions that make it so that things are a little weird, that is the exception. There are times where people have sent me videos where you can actually see the sun setting into the clouds. They're setting behind thick clouds above the horizon. That's not it. Sorry, you need to have the actual horizon, not clouds. All right. Holy Cornholio, Beavis and Butthead, Season 8, Episode 3. Thank you, Glober Mom. Can you send that to me? Can you DM me on that? And Glober Mom, I saw you, is your, hold on. Let me see, is this next? When is it? When is it? There it is. In 2 weeks is Glober Mom's 5-year anniversary. She sent me an invite. I think I can be there. It's on my calendar. So anyway, this is what the sun does every day. So that first sequence there was by Felipe Rockhold. He's a flat earther, and I said, hey, you should buy a solar filter. So he did, and then he did this, and then he blocked me and deleted his channel. But I got the video first. Oh, Cornholio is from Titicaca. Got it. All right. Here's this from Whoopi 6020. Sped up 20 times. In fact, I'm going to play this at 2x. But for flat Earth, the thing is for flat Earth is that the sun has to actually, it should never set. It should never reduce to a point and stop being visible. Because if midday the sun is at 1/2 of a degree in angular size, then when you move far away, it should shrink. It should be then 1/4 and then maybe 1/8. but it would never on the surface of your dirt pizza. It's never far enough away to actually shrink to a point. But even if it did shrink to a point, it'd still be just a point. It'd be a star. You'd still see it. You'd say that one's the sun. It's got so far away that it's just a point light source. But it would have to get significantly far away for a point light source when it's half a degree in size during the day. This is simple perspective. They always talk about perspective, but they never actually understand it. All right, there it is. Thank you for that. Ended up with Red's rhetoric.
The Earth, I mean, it doesn't matter how far away the sun gets. If I'm on the tabletop and the sun is above it, I should be able to see it, unless the sun is like a stage lamp, right? Like a spotlight, a shielded spotlight where I'm blocking perpendicular view. I mean, if the sun is a ball or even if it's just a disk, I should be able to see it. No matter how far away it gets, I'll still be able to see it. There's no illusion where the sun drops. I mean, it's pretty clear the sun drops behind the Earth and then disappears for like 12 hours and comes up on the other side. I mean, again, this is just observation, but it perfectly comports with the round Earth model. I do not see an explanation for this in the flat Earth model.
Well, so for one, it actually doesn't, right? They say that when the sun sets, it actually was below the curve of the Earth for multiple minutes.
Do you notice he instantly deflected? He did not provide an explanation for flat Earth. The only thing he can ever do is try to poke holes in the globe, and it's just a misunderstanding. So what he's doing here is he's saying, oh, you're only seeing the apparent position of the sun. That doesn't falsify the globe. That doesn't explain flat Earth. This is all just this deflection tactic. And anybody that's dumb enough to be convinced that this is evidence for flat Earth, anybody that's dumb enough to think, oh, WItSit's to think that he's doing a good job. No, he's not. He did not provide evidence for flat Earth. And that's what his position is. His position is not Earth, not globe, therefore flat. That's not a reasonable position, though he does get into that. I think he does get into that later.
It's
right,
every day,
right? Because light bends, yeah.
Yeah, so just another illusion that's convenient, right? But fine, yeah, sure, light could bend. It's not really.
But how do you explain sunsets? How do you explain the colors of sunsets without a round? Because in the round
So why did he say color? Just how do you explain sunset?
Earth, it's pretty simple, right? The lower it goes, the more layers of atmosphere it's going through. Certain light frequencies are blocked by it. Other light, as you point out, like infrared will break through. So you've got these spectacular colors because they're the whatever higher or lower frequency that.
Now, let's be very clear. There is no explanation for flat Earth for this. There's nothing. And Austin won't touch it. No flat earther will touch it. No flat earther will say, oh, here's the physics behind it. Here's how we predict it. Here's what time it will happen at any one position at any day. None of it. This is where they always run. This is they sit around in their echo chambers schooling each other on how to deflect away from this flat earth falsifying picture right here. Not possible on flat earth. A flat surface cannot get in the way of the sun when it's above that flat surface.
Break through the atmosphere. I mean, how do you explain sunsets having colors if the Earth is just moving away from us? I mean, there is no physical explanation for that, like there is in the round Earth.
Of course there is. You're looking at the sun, the source of light, through the most dense layers of the atmos. Even though it's above you, which, mind you, it's 93 million miles away on the globe, far above the atmos, right? You're looking at an angle that goes through the atmos. So you're seeing it through all of those layers of air. It's just like how if...
But you're not. You're not. On flat Earth, you wouldn't. Right there. Let's go back to this diagram here. How high is the sun on flat Earth? You don't know? Well, I measured it. It has to be 3,000 miles high. It has to be because I measured it. I did the simple geometry to figure it out. 3,105 miles high on the equinox from Minneapolis. You get a different number if you're at a different latitude. That falsifies flat Earth. But let's imagine for a second that didn't just destroy your whole stupid dirt pizza anyway. And let's pretend that you still have something to go on and say, well, okay, it has to be some thousands of miles high. Okay, that's not going through the atmos of flat Earth. It's still not, because from where you are to where the sun is an angle up. And in Again, you can do the simple geometry to figure out the angular elevation of the sun over the horizon for flat Earth. You can do that simple geometry to see how high it must be and see, well, it has to be 10 or 20 degrees above. So you're not looking through the thickest layer. You're looking up. The path of the light gets out of the thick part of the air pretty quickly. But it goes worse than that. Shifty, are you still here, Shifty? Here's new moon. Sun is not setting. It's there. It's just a reflection from the water. No, it's not, you idiot. No, it's not. That's not a reflection from the water. That, if it was a reflection of the water, it would be below the horizon line, not above the horizon line. How stupid can you be? And that's not what WItsit said, New Moon. And that's the other problem, of course, we talked about yesterday. None of you can have a consistent model. It's the fourth law of Flerf. Every single possible explanation that a flat earther presents for some observation contradicts some other flat earthers, often their own, explanation for some other observation. So how is this a reflection? Don't know. That doesn't make any sense. That's not where reflections would appear. All right, so Shifty. Here's my question to you, Shifty. What's going on here? Why would you think that this is possible on flat Earth? What's the actual geometry? Can you draw a diagram like I did of where the flat Earth is, of where the surface of the water, where the sun is, and the path that the light takes? The bottom of the sun is closer than the top of the sun. Simple distances, right? And shortly after the sun sets here, you will see stars immediately above the horizon. Stars are thousands of times less intense than the sun to us. However, wherever they are, there isn't nearly as much light. They're not as bright. Yet right above the horizon, we can see the stars. How is that possible if the Earth is flat? You're looking through the thickest part of the atmos, yet you can see the not bright stars, and you can't see the bright sun. You got anything for that, Shifty? Maybe Shifty isn't even listening. All right. Liz K says, show me how in this chat, how you can be honest by explaining how you can be a flat earther in this chat and still be asking that question. So Shifty must have asked a question. Let's see what the question is. I promise I'm honest. Please help me find my lost ball. I miss it. Okay, so Shifty. I don't know. Are you actually paying attention? How does this happen? How is the physics of this? Be honest with yourself, flat earthers. Don't just say, how can I defend this? What's the right word salad that I need to recall to make myself feel good? Right? That's what it is. That's all you're doing, is you're doing something to make yourself feel like you refuted it, but it didn't. What's the real refutation? Right? Dr. Nimrod, if tomorrow all the flurfs went away, what would you do with your channel after celebrating that stupid went away that it is? Yes. Well, unlike the kind of top line of flat earthers, I am gainfully employed. So if I woke up tomorrow and discovered that all the flat earthers didn't exist anymore, I would still get in the car and I'd drive myself to work, and then I'd figure out how to solve whatever problem I'm solving at work today that's dealing with emails. That's what I do. For a hobby, what would I do? I would find some other dummies to talk about. Somebody mentioned, what about the Apollo deniers? Yes, I would. That would be on the list. And I've talked about it before. I think that the people that imagine that they're talking to intergalactic beings are incredibly derpy. So that might be something I do too. I have a collection of videos downloaded from them already. So wouldn't you stick around for us, says Captain Crunch. Yes, I would hope that if all of the flat earthers leave tomorrow and all of you are like, if all the flat earthers leave tomorrow, they say, we were just kidding. Earth's a globe. Then yes, everybody here, all of you, you'd still exist. And I would then, next Tuesday night, I would have something for you too. Because I love this hobby. It's a fun hobby. The more the hobby pays me, the more time I can give the hobby, if you know what I mean. So, now FTFE is this is his main source of income. What would he do? Well, he's a smart guy. I have no doubt that he would have just a short little bit of, well, I got to do something, and then he'd go do that something. Because he's a smart guy and he's a hard worker. So he's going to figure it out. Now, if all of the flat earthers except for WItsit disappeared tomorrow, WItsit would have nobody. His income would go to zero. If all the flat earthers except for Dearth went away tomorrow, Dearth would have no income. He'd be done. Right? You can go down the list of the flat earthers that this is their rice bowl. Right? And they'd be in trouble if all the flat earthers went away. So every once in a while, I see somebody saying, you need, talking to me, some flat earthers accusing me of needing them. I don't need you. I fight disinformation. So, and there's no shortage of it out there. So, did I hear, all right, Dr. Nimrod, did I hear FDFE had an accident? How is he doing? What happened? So he did. And I'll just say what he mentioned in his Discord server and on his, community tab. He fell, in the house. Emma was not at home at the time and he knocked himself out. He was unconscious for a while. I think he hit his face and his jaw, his eye and his jaw. So he had some, they were like, where's this damage from? Because he was bleeding. He was, a bit like internally in his eye. Like, where's this bleeding come from? They determined that it was likely from his eye, not from his brain. So, I don't know. He told me more than in the public stuff. So I don't want to mix what it is that I don't think I've said any more than necessary. But yeah, so last I talked to him, he was okay, and recovering. So I did not talk to him today or yesterday. So it's been a little bit. Anyway, yeah. If you can help him. He can't do as many live streams, and that's a big part of his of what does stuff for him. So go help him. This is my hobby. It is his rice bowl. So respect that there. So oh yes. He thank you, Eric. He did tell me, and I don't know. Who knows what, but anyway, yeah, he did say he has an infection, and that was an underlying infection that had probably been the underlying cause. So there it is. Okay. And I didn't see Shifty. I don't know. Maybe Shifty's not watching the stream. So anyway, here we go. Let's keep going.
That's having colors if the Earth is just moving away from us. I mean, there is no physical explanation for that, like there is in the round Earth.
Of course there is. You're looking at the sun, the source of light, through the most dense layers of the atmosphere. Even though it's above you, which, mind you, it's 93 million miles away on the globe, far above the atmosphere, right? You're looking at an angle that goes through the atmosphere. So you're seeing it through all of those layers of air. It's just like how if the streetlights were going down the street, I could put my thumb up and block them. I could see a shadow relative to that. It would look like the streetlights are below my thumb. I could.
Oh, he understands perspective now. Crush your head. Crush your head. New Moon says, is the real horizon, is it the real horizon that can really hide the sun? Answer me, geometric appearing, or what is that? And yeah, this is again, this is the attempts at word salad to obfuscate from the actual thing that's happening on the globe, and to completely deflect away from the failure of flat Earth. So New Moon, we understand the globe. Don't try to understand the globe yet. You just try to explain how it works on flat Earth. And you can't. And if you deflect to talking about the globe, that's how you tell us that you can't. That's how you tell us that flat Earth is a lie, by not talking about how it actually happens on flat Earth. Don't you get that? It's obvious to all of us. When you refuse to talk about how things work on flat Earth, you are admitting that flat Earth is a lie. Because if flat Earth was not a lie, you'd just explain it on flat Earth, right? I can explain it on the globe. I'm not going to. I'm going to ask you, because you have the burden of proof, right? You need to explain everything better than the globe. You can't explain one thing. What time will the sun set? Just one. Just give me that one thing. And if you can't do that, if you can't explain what time will the sun set, then flat Earth is a lie. That's it. Erica Pelding says, WItsit always deflects by changing the topic to Michaels and Morley or dark matter. Yes. And he mixes things in. We talked about it yesterday. He says the globe, or the heliocentric model, includes dark matter. It does not. It does not include dark matter. Dark matter is a hypothesis. It's a good one. There seems to be some lines of evidence that are pointing towards it, but there's other hypotheses, and it's not been confirmed yet. So, So yeah, and he's like he likes to claim that the heliocentric model, he'll say it can't predict anything, but it totally does. And when he says that, he always jumps to dark matter, right? That's not part of the heliocentric model. So can we predict things? Yes, we can predict the time the sun will set. Something you can't do. That's it. If you can't predict the sunset, you're screwed. I mean, how many times you ask a flat earther for a map that's got a scale, and they're like, Gleason's map has a scale. It doesn't. It's got a relationship converter between miles and nautical miles. That's what it has. That's it. Anyway, all right.
Put a 2-foot trash can on the ground and see the streetlights that are 10 feet tall look like they're below the trash can, just based on perspective. You would be looking through the horizontal atmos, since the perspective is having you look down at where the sun is. So you're going to see that light through that.
The sun also gets bigger as it passes, as it goes to set. I mean, it doesn't get.
No, it doesn't, Harrison.
Smaller. It's not a diminution to nothingness, right? The idea that if it's just moving away, it should just get smaller and smaller and smaller. When it goes to the atmosphere, often the atmospheric lensing makes it appear as though, if anything, it grows bigger, but usually it looks like it stays the same. And again, like
So atmospheric lensing does exist, but it's not a lens like a magnifying glass. It's more like a horizontal lens, and that's not something we see very often. But if you've ever seen this, my grandparents had one to help them read. And it was basically it was an acrylic cylinder that was sliced the long way in half, right? So you take the cylinder. I should get one. It's a cylinder like this, and it was sliced this way, and then it was elongated a little bit, and so then they could read through it, and it made everything taller. It didn't make it wider, just taller. And if it was taller, they were able to read. You're able to read better. It was pretty cool. We don't. My cousins and I would play with it. And my grandma had a manual typewriter, and she'd bang. She was really good at typing on the manual typewriter. Anyway, that's what the atmospheric lensing does.
Atmospheric lensing or refraction explains pretty much all of this. Like the idea that you can see farther than you think technically you should be able to. That's because, the Earth's atmosphere bends the light. I mean, light bends. Everybody knows this. This is why I can talk to you through a camera lens, right? Because the lens itself is bending the light. That's why, so the light bends with the atmosphere, and so it goes farther than you think it should be able to.
Well, that's different, though. That's two different media, right? So you have the lens and you have the air. It's two different media. It's called Snell's law, which is two different mediums, but not a singular one. Now, it's not that light.
So WItsit is trying to say, but he knows he can't because he knows it's not true, but he's trying to downplay using Snell's law in the air because it's not between two different mediums. But WItsit.
Refraction, which we immediately and adamantly claim is always present because there's temperature fluctuation and atmospheric conditions that are consistently affecting what you perceive.
This is him trying to explain away an observation that falsified flat Earth and saying you didn't account for refraction.
And never in your dissecting of the observations do you even account for refraction that we know for a fact to be present.
So if it's present in that picture that you didn't like, isn't it also present in the other observations?
Refraction increases proportionate to the distance. When you just throw refraction out entirely, invoking the furthest point away in the image and saying that you don't have to account for refraction and making the baseless assertion it doesn't move it because you showed us some really not very great images where they look to be generally the same is laughable, bro.
It's laughable, bro.
Can't be displaced within a medium. It's just that's an unfalsifiable claim. They claim that light can be infinitely bent around the globe. You could see the back of your head if you wanted to, that there's no limit to it, which makes it unfalsifiable. But
it doesn't make it unfalsifiable. You can measure it. So you measure it, and then you have bounds on it. If you refuse to measure it, then the only thing that we can do is we can look at similar circumstances and say, well, this is a range based on similar circumstances of the effects that might be happening there. But if you want to be precise, you need to measure it. And more measurements, more precise.
Sure, you can say that, but there are certain observations we've made that falsified the refraction claim. And without refraction, the entire globe falls apart. For example, I had an Air Force pilot reach out to me and has chosen
This is a great story.
to remain anonymous for pretty obvious reasons. Verified him for sure, Air Force pilot. And he told me that he saw the K2 mountain range from 300 nautical miles away, and he was flying at 28,000 feet altitude.
Okay. I did this. I tweeted the details of this. So I'm gonna grab that tweet. We're gonna look at it here. Let's see here, because it's quite ridiculous that he's doing this. So, all right. So here's my tweet. Here's the Bislin's advanced Earth curve calculator. So we'll hear him. We'll verify this. Oh no, hold on a second. Did I do that wrong? All right. I did the target size is wrong there. So hold on. Bislin advanced curve calculator. All right, let's see what he's got here. So switching it over. Okay, I'll put in the stuff live that he says here.
And the elevation of those mountains are at 28,000 feet.
Okay, 28,000 feet. So let's back up just a tiny bit.
Did target acquirement, establishing the landmark with his manual viewing pod. He saw the mountains level with him from 300 miles away. It should
300 miles away.
be like up to 5 degrees below you on a.
So 300 miles away. And how high was he? Target distance, we got to go 300 miles. Observer height, I think he said 28,000 feet. Now, 28,000 feet is not very high for I don't know what kind of plane he was in, but he said target acquire. right? Target acquire. I want to see what. So if he's target acquiring, he's not in a cargo plane.
Is level with him, as he actually, out to me, and has chosen to remain anonymous for pretty obvious reasons. Verified him for sure, Air Force pilot, and he told me that he saw the K2 mountain range from 300 nautical miles away, and he was flying at 28,000 feet altitude.
Okay, that I'm gonna wonder about. Why was he only at 28,000 feet altitude in an airplane that can target acquire? Does that make sense to anybody? Because to me, it's not making sense. Why only 28,000 feet? Is that a normal cruising altitude for a plane that can target acquire? Anyway, it doesn't matter, because right here, I did the math. We got 28,000 foot observer. The target size is, how high is K2? I think K2 is 24,000 maybe. And then our refraction at that elevation is probably 0.12 is a reasonable amount of refraction. So at high elevation, when you're not skimming the ground, when you're in regular air, right? It gets much less variable than when you're just over water, and when you're skimming the surface, you get this much lower refraction coefficient. So 0.12 is pretty reasonable low. It's a pretty low one, actually. So all right, demonic leprechauns is hard to say. Sometimes they fly lower, so could be. So fly low to avoid radar detection. Yeah, but my guess is 28,000 feet isn't low enough to avoid radar. So, anyway, so how high is K2? So, we got 28,000 feet is K2. So, all right, so I'll put that in. Okay, so at 28,000 feet observer, 28,000 feet target size, right there, hidden 4,000, leaving 24,000 feet on the globe. So what's the problem you're having here? How much should that be below? It should not be below. It should be above. And this is the problem once again. Every stinking time flat earthers try to predict what would be seen on the globe, they get it wrong. WItsit said that this would be not viewable, but it definitely is viewable. Okay. Maybe WItsit mistook the plane's altitude for the height of K2. So, all right. Zuma races, most fighter jets hold in the CAS stack anywhere from 16,000 feet and up. So 28,000, very possible. Okay. That's fine. But yeah, so I took WItsit at WItsit's words. I put in observer height 28,000, target size 28,000, and distance 300 miles. And we get hidden of 4,000 and visible of 24,000 feet. So at a distance of 300 miles, are you able, think about this for a second, are you able with your eyes to measure whether or not you're seeing only 24,000 feet or all 28,000 feet of K2? Are you able to with your eyes? You are not. And he said it was level with him. How did he measure that it was level with him? How was that done? Visible angle 0.87, so it's not even a degree of dip. Now listen to what the dip says about how much dip there should be.
And the elevation of those mountains are at 28,000 feet, and he saw the mountains level with him.
He saw the mountains level with him. Well, level with him 0.8 degrees. How did he determine that they were level? I don't know.
As he actually, did target acquirement, establishing the landmark with his manual viewing pod, he saw the mountains level with him from 300 miles away.
So he did a target acquire of the mountain? I don't know. That sounds a bit much to me. But so far, this totally matches the globe. So WItsit, why are you even talking about this? Oh, that's right, because you suck at math. You always get it wrong.
It should be like up to 5 degrees below you on a globe, right? Because even though they're the same height, it's obviously on a globe, but it was level with him. And like at that height, you can't even invoke refraction, admittedly, because it's so high. It's like the much thinner portion of the atmos. And of course, it doesn't even go 5 degrees anyway. So, and that's what woke him up. The flat Earth was his experience in the Air Force, and I've never.
All right, so this guy was, if he's actually not messing with WItsit, he's an idiot. Okay, there's idiots in the Air Force.
Heard a rebuttal to that. Most people just claim the guy doesn't exist or he must be lying. Well, he certainly
No, he could be dumb. It's a possibility that he's dumb.
exists because I verified it. So if you see what I'm saying, he
trust
saw the
me,
mountains
bro.
300 miles away and they were level with him.
Right,
At
but he saw it from an extremely elevated position, and the mountains themselves are elevated. I mean, we're not talking about a guy saying something 300 miles away from ground level. So that again, there are certain circumstances, certain conditions of the atmosphere where you can get things like that. I mean, everybody knows. I mean, rainbows are an illusion, mirages are an illusion. Like there are certain things that the atmosphere does to light that is dazzling or baffling to the human eye. But that again, we would be able to see every mountain from 300 miles away if the Earth was flat. Seeing it, in one circumstance doesn't prove anything. And we had a pilot who called in yesterday talking about flying at night and seeing the glow of cities from about I think he said about 100 miles away, and then slowly you see the glow of the city rise up. I mean, hell, even when I was driving into Austin from the Renaissance Fair last weekend, the first thing I saw of Austin was the top of the skyscrapers. I mean, it's just everyday observations. You can see that the globe exists, that there's a curvature, and that things disappear over the edge of it.
I think that's kind of the big part here is that there's just typically a misunderstanding of the flat Earth position or what it actually has adequate explanations for. Like,
okay, up to this point, he has not provided any adequate explanations. Is he about to?
Seeing things disappear bottom up would be what happens on a plane Earth. You have the ground ramp up. But just to clarify what...
How? It just ramps up is word salad. You didn't provide anything. You just said word salad.
Is wrong with the observation in the plane. It's not that they're so far away you shouldn't see them, because you're right. He's super high in the air, right? So you're looking up from higher on the globe. And you can see further the higher you are, whether the Earth is flat or whether it's a globe. The problem is that they were level with him. They should have...
As they should have been. As they should have been. Right there.
Been 5 degrees below his level, his plane's level. They should have been 5 degrees below that.
Where did
they
you
were
get
level
that?
with him. That's a ton when you're talking about a military fighter jet establishing target acquirement or looking at the landmark. 5 degrees is a ton in the Air Force.
Seriously. Target acquire a mountain. Sounds to me like from 300 miles away. That's got to be BS. That's got to be absolute 100% BS. Target acquire a mountain 300 miles away. I don't know. I'm just saying that sounds too stupid. Target acquire a mountain from 300 miles away. Oh my gosh.
And mind you, I mean, I'm not an Air Force pilot. I just listened to him, broke it all down, showed me everything. He said that there's not a pilot in the world. There's not an Air Force pilot in the world that would tell you that 5 degrees is some type of acceptable range of error.
It's not 5 degrees, you dipstick. It's 0.8. Why do you suck so hard at math and think that you're good? That's the problem. It's not that he's, in this case, lying. It's that he's an idiot.
I think I've done pretty well in the debates, and typically the opponents are not all that worthy, humbly.
Yeah. You know who's not worthy? You, WItsit. You can't do the math. Just go here. Just go to Walter Bislin Advanced Curve Calculator, and since you pretend that refraction never happens, put 0 in for refraction. And look at that. It doesn't help you. It's still mostly there. 21,900 feet. What's going on? Oh, all right. Oh, sorry. Here's the drop angle. 2%. This visible angle is different. The drop angle, 2% or 2 degrees. 2 degrees, not 5. Yeah, Demonic Leprechaun says, I've heard of pilots target acquiring random things while flying, like birds and such, but a mountain is odd. And from that distance. Because a mountain at that distance isn't an object, right? A plane is an object, a bird is an object. There's not stuff, right? There's boundaries around it that you can identify distinctly. But a mountain doesn't have that. If I were to write software, this is how I can process it myself. If I were to write software to do some target acquiring, I would want to, especially for a plane, I would want to have a way to distinctly identify that object separate from its surroundings. Right? How do you target acquire a mountain 300 miles away? All you have is right. You have 1, 2, 3. You have lots and lots and lots of mountains. Tons of mountains. It's a mountain range. There isn't just one. I was just in Colorado. You don't just see one, you see lots of them. It's not like Mount Rainier where it's just one. So you have all these mountains. Which one did you target acquire? How did the system, like I said, if I was writing it, I would want to distinctly identify that separate from its surroundings. So I'd say, well, I need to have some sort of a boundary all the way around the object so that I'm not seeing and merging together multiple objects. I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me, but maybe somebody that is a pilot can explain that a little better. So Zoomeray says JASSMs have a range in excess of 300 nautical miles, but normally GPS guided, not done visibly. WItSit's comments to detractors on Twitter. Oh my gosh. Holy, what is this? What is that? All right, let's have a look at this. This is his word salad here. This wall of words from WItsit. Of course, that's not what actually happened at all. All right, well, hold on. So this is... All right, this who is talking to him? I can't scroll up on that one. So, okay. All right, I'm gonna start with this one. I'm gonna back up to this one here. So, zoom lens. Oh, crikey! Since I'm not logged in, so it's not letting me do the whole multiple things. So there's 2 issues here. It's a minor faux pas where you came in accusing him of a serious crime and he forgot talking about it. Did he lie about speaking to an F-15 pilot based on the pilot not giving him resources to take a look? Public manuals. Case closed. I don't know. Oh yeah, because he talked about manuals. Oh, this is good. Yeah. So WItsit said that he sent manuals to him.
The plane knows which direction it's going. The plane knows its altitude. The plane knows its speed. It's whether you're looking through a device with a manual heads up. Guess what? The plane's still calculating shit for you. They're not giving you $1 million rockets to go fuck around with because you're good at math or you're not good at math. Okay, it's silliness. It's silliness. You oversimplify all this shit. You oversimplify this.
Let me explain it to you.
Go ahead, please do.
Okay, this is an Air Force pilot, has 28 years of experience. He was kicked out and forced to retire because he wouldn't take the vaccine. He reached out to me anonymously, and I verified it, and he showed me all the manuals, all the information, pictures from his own aircraft.
All the manuals. So he showed WItsit all the manuals, and I know that this had been going around on Twitter for a while. Where WItsit claimed, so he loves to make these bold claims, right? And he feels safe because he's not going to ever share the information, right? And so how does How does WItsit know? Well, yeah, they've been messed with before. People have pretended to be pilots before. So anyway, he said he showed me all the manuals. Okay, did he show you manuals that were top secret? But he was retired from the Air Force. Does he still have these top secret manuals? Probably that would be a problem if he did, right? That would be a quite an issue if he had top secret manuals. If he had regular manuals that normal people could see, well, that doesn't establish anything, because all of us could go get those manuals. Doesn't tell us anything. But he was very boastful about that. But let's look at WItsit's X post is worthless. Yeah. Of course, everything WItsit does is the same. He claimed maximum radar distance of like 30 nautical miles in an Air Force jet. Obviously, this is patently incorrect and can easily be disproven with simple Google search. As I point out, that a fellow Glober had to correct him. All right, when able to see the miles from there, reluctantly concede after 5 replies. He just skated past it. Oh, that's one thing that WItsit likes to do a lot. He skates past the lies that he tells when he gets caught. Yeah, he lied about what he said in the debate, but he didn't, because WItsit claimed all the manuals, and so this is a lot of this was about the manuals. So all right. Just skated past it like hey, tried to prove me wrong, citing the tallest mountain in Afghanistan. I don't know what that's about. He's all over the place, right? That's the problem. And I think you're right here. It's mostly because 28 years, you aren't just kicked out. That would take an act of Congress. So, yeah, I think that there were some people that were shaken out of the military because they didn't want to get that medicine. But I don't think that anybody was actually to my knowledge, was actually like totally really forced, right? They may not have gotten prime positions or, opportunities to move up. I don't know, but to my knowledge, but could be that somebody was said, well, I think it's time for you to retire. I don't know. Yeah. Dude. Yeah. And he does like to say gaslight a lot. All right. Well, that was not very valuable. You're right.
Right. So yeah. And honestly, like I said,
oh yeah. Erica Pelding. If the pilot is retired, then why does he want to be anonymous? He can't be fired from the Air Force anymore.
talk to kind of the top guys that defend the globe. They all just say this can't be true, or it would absolutely refute the globe. Well, he did it. So again, it was level with him.
Yeah, I mean, without proof, you can take his word for it. But again, I don't think that one anecdote just proves all of the things that we're talking about.
Sure.
And this is important. If the Earth were flat, just go measure it. Go get measurements for it, right? You don't need the authenticated trust me, bro, from a pilot who didn't actually do anything that the globe doesn't predict anyway. Go measure it. Go do real measurements. The reason why you go to the anonymous quote from an unsubstantiated person is because you don't have any measurements. You don't have any observations. You don't have any actual evidence that the Earth is flat. And every time you run away from just doing the basic thing of showing that the Earth is flat, it's how you admit that the Earth is not flat. Everybody, we all see that, flatties. We see when you run away that you're running away, and we know why.
And again, attenuation can go some way to explain some aspect of things like why the sky is blue or why sunsets are multicolored, but it doesn't explain why the sun disappears completely at night. That's not explained by attenuation. Attenuation is just the diminution of light as it passes through an atmosphere. That's not it doesn't make things completely disappear in the way that we see the sun just obviously go behind the horizon. And I do want to look at a couple other pictures here. I know you're familiar with it, but I haven't heard your response to it. Things like the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, if the crew can bring this up, where I mean, unless I'm missing something, it very clearly. So this is a longest bridge in the world for a while. I think there may be a longer one now, but Lake Pontchartrain, just outside of New Orleans, this bridge is level to the surface of the water, but you can see a very clear curve as it diminishes over the horizon. So this was taken, I think, from about 15 stories up with an extreme zoom lens. That's why everything is compacted. That's why those bridges or the humps look so dramatic. Really, they're pretty, your typical humps, but that's just an effect of the massive optical zoom lens. But I mean, clearly it goes over the horizon, and there's other pictures like this. I mean, why would it look like this if the Earth was flat?
Yeah. So, and just to throw out, I just really quickly dropped like 5 other pictures of Pontchartrain.
Now, I did just drop like five other pictures of Pontchartrain. It's a deflection. Remember, they train each other what word salad to use and what garbage evidence to use to get out of these situations. He will not directly address this particular evidence. Why is that curved? Why is that curved? They say, show us the curve. We show you the curve. You say, oh, let's not talk about that one. I have some other pictures that I want you to look at.
That we should pull up, because this is not what you see when you look at the whole bridge. It's insanely flat. But I will point out a few things about this. This is an older argument from around 2015. It's kind of become a meme, actually. And most globers have abandoned it because if that's the curvature of the Earth has to...
So how is this picture analogous to that one? The first picture was showing many miles. This is showing, I don't know, 1 mile? It's not analogous.
To be like a fraction of the size they claim it is. It would have to be a tiny, tiny, tiny globe Earth for that to be the curve of the Earth.
Oh, there's some math that he just talked about. Did he do the math? Of course he didn't. He can't do math.
Way smaller than 4,000 miles. It's a 100-mile radius globe, right? It's way too drastic a rate of curvature over that distance. In addition, it's a foreshortening effect based on optics and the Atmos, which that place notoriously has pretty crazy.
A foreshortening effect based on optics and the Atmos. Well, the Atmos doesn't do foreshortening. Perspective does. Atmosphere doesn't do that. It causes refraction. An atmosphere causes distant objects to appear slightly higher, causes the curve to be slightly diminished, yet you still see curve. So here he wants to talk about refraction.
Refraction, which we immediately and adamantly claim is always present because there's temperature fluctuation and atmospheric conditions that are consistently affecting what you perceive.
Which he got wrong. Because that curve there cannot be due to refraction, because refraction will reduce it, not increase it.
Atmospheric conditions and pollution and stuff. And we've replicated a flat surface. You put enough of an atmospheric temperature fluctuation and stuff, it'll start to warp it, compress it, and make it look like it's curving, also based on your angle. In this picture, I'm pretty sure they actually compressed it. So you can take a picture. It's so deceptive.
All right.
You can take a
They didn't compress it, Austin. It's not deceptive.
picture of a desk.
Hold on, Austin. We have a guest.
Okay, now I don't like him, but this hobo that just walked in is about to smack down the WItsit hobo.
Appearance here. Alex Jones made his appearance at the Flat Earth debate.
Listen, I'm only going to ask you a real quick question. Are the sun and other planets flat as well? Because I've been a big astronomer since I was a kid with my dad when we had professional telescopes when I was a kid. Now anybody can have the computerized controls. I've sat there overnight drinking a 12-pack of beer in college with a 35mm camera hooked to a 12-inch refractor telescope and taking photos of Saturn and Jupiter and watch it as it's turning. Watch the globes turning. I put green lenses on the telescope and could watch the sun and over an hour see it turn and see see coronal mass ejections moving in the time lapse. Boom, it's round. Done.
Debate over, Austin. I'm sorry to tell you, you've now lost the debate. And
Okay, so now on Twitter, on X, the flatties are torn because a lot of them they like that hobo, and so they're like, I don't know what to do. But and this is, there's a little bit of a truth, a little bit of accuracy to, just because the sun is a sphere doesn't mean the Earth is a sphere. But you need to explain it all. So the flatties are like, he walked in, he had to be tagged in because Harrison was doing so bad. Actually, Harrison was doing just fine. And he didn't get, there's nobody telling Alex Jones what to do. Let's be clear about that. He doesn't have any puppeteer that's telling him what to do. He's the guy that tells everybody else that they have a puppeteer. It's everybody's so paranoid. They're all so freaking paranoid. Like, oh, he's controlled opposition. They're controlled opposition. They're controlled opposition. It's everybody pointing at everybody else saying that they're at controlled opposition. The reality is that nobody can control anybody. There's no controlled opposition anywhere because people just do what the hell they want. So they're turning the frogs gay. So what did he do? All right. So then they're like, well, he just did that and he walked away and he didn't let WItsit answer. So here's the problem that WItsit has. So he said that he saw through a telescope coronal mass ejections from the sun. So coronal mass ejections is when actual like material, plasma from the sun comes out in from the side of the sun. You can see it. So WItsit, so the flat earthers like, they didn't give him a chance to explain it. Well, WItsit's explanation for it must include a plausible mechanism for what is causing the coronal mass ejections of the sun for the sun that is applicable to flat earth, which WItsit doesn't know what it is. He will over and over say, well, I don't know, right? And it's so that he can't get trapped. He can't have something falsifiable, right? All that talk of him saying, well, it's unfalsifiable. His whole shtick is never saying anything that's falsifiable. What's the moon? Not going to say. What's the sun? Not going to say. So for the globe, we know what the sun is, and we have many people for many years that have been studying it and can tell you all sorts of things about it that have been empirically verified. What is the sun over flat earth? No idea. Every flat earther has a different idea about what the sun is. They're all just random nonsense. What is coronal mass ejections for flat earth? Can any flat earther explain that? You need to. You don't get to just punt on that. You need to explain it because we can explain it. We have details. We have science. We have evidence for it. It's not assumptions. It's not just what somebody told us. It's actual real information. So WItsit was not about to answer Alex Jones, right? And he left, so WItsit can't answer. WItsit was about to, if he was going to be pressed, he was going to go output a whole bunch of word salad. That's all he has. And probably try to deflect.
The earth is round. What's your response to what Alex just brought up there?
Yeah, the sun could be round, and it doesn't mean that the earth is, right? So it's and also, by the way, the earth can be round and flat.
So he didn't address coronal mass ejections. Right? He didn't address it. Just deflection.
Of course, it could be a plane shape, it could be a plane circle, but yeah, I mean, I agree that they look like they could be spheres. They certainly look like discs in the sky. They have cycles, but they all move around the Earth. The Earth's in the center, right? It is illogical to look at the ceiling and be like, well, that's what the Earth is.
Right, but
that's
again, you can plot the paths of the planet from the Earth and you can predict them and everything, but it makes so much more sense when you take the sun as the center. Everything's in a perfect little circle. Everything's concentric. It makes a hell of a lot more sense than trying to plot things from a geocentric. Which, I mean, how do you explain the way that the planets move in and then away from us and then towards us and away from us? I mean, you can say torus field, but frankly, that's just not a good enough explanation.
The magnetic force, right? So there's a book by a PhD professor that is called Relational Mechanics. He breaks all this down, the specific force, Lorentz magnetic force.
Did you notice the appeal to authority there? Right? Did you notice that? I don't know if other people do. I try to. Let's see. So here you go. Appeal to authority. A formal fallacy in which it is argued that because a perceived authority figure or figures believe a proposition relevant to their authority to be true, that proposition must therefore be true. And WItsit plagiarized that from intelligentspeculation.com. So a while ago, it was in 2022. WItsit posted a whole collection of fallacies to Discord, and they didn't look like that. Let's see, I have the, this is what he posted right there. This is what he posted. No attribution to where it was from. So I'm like, did he write those himself? So what did I do? I copied the text, I Googled it, and this is what I found, intelligentspeculation.com. He just copy pasted it from there. So anyway, so he did a fallacy there where he had to mention that it was a PhD that wrote the book. Well, you can't doubt that it's a truth in the book because a PhD wrote it. Fact is, PhDs are sometimes wrong. Just because he wrote a book doesn't mean it's wrong. It needs to be backed by evidence. So let's hear him again here.
Ironic part is it actually works better. And this is what I like. It works way better. You don't need dark matter. There's a book by a PhD professor that is called Relational Mechanics. He breaks all this down. The specific force, Lorentz magnetic force, shows the dynamic equivalence of the planetary motion from a stationary position.
Okay, the dynamic equivalence. So this is WItsit's current shtick on lying about how things work. So he says it's a toroid field, that the Earth is a toroid field. And that's his model. His whole model is 2 words, toroid field. It used to be azimuthal grid of vision, but that's not his model anymore. His model has always only been word salad. The current word salad is torus field. So the torus field model is then he brings in this book by the PhD that I've looked at. I got a PDF of it. I looked at it. The guy's not a flatty. He's a glober. He says that these things happen in he gets some of the physics right. He's a little bit out there, but none of it supports flat Earth. None of it works for flat Earth, but he says there's a dynamic equivalence. So when he says that, what he's talking about is he's saying, well, you can take all of these actual real forces and apply them in 3-dimensional space around a globe, and then the dynamical equivalence is to do a projection. You just do a coordinate transform projection. That's all you're doing. It's not a coordinate transform. You're projecting. You're warping. You're warping the space that you're doing the computations in. That's the dynamical equivalence. But when you do that, then you change the space. You're no longer in the same 3-dimensional space. You're now in a different 3-dimensional space because the coordinate transform comes. It's all projected to this different space. So then you lose the dynamics, right? You don't get the dynamics. So you got kinematics, which is just an exploration of what things happen, what they do. It's good for measuring things, but it doesn't include any forces. You've got dynamics where there are forces involved. So what causes the ISS to orbit the globe? Well, there's dynamics involved in there. You've got the outward force, the inward force, those two things that are in balance. Well, when you project it onto a flat Earth, it does the spirograph pattern, right? And that spirograph pattern, it has what he's calling a dynamic equivalence, but it's not explaining the forces, right? The forces now all fall apart because it has to do this weird pattern. And in order for that pattern to happen, if that's the actual reality, then you have to have forces that are constantly changing the direction of it. And you would not be in free fall. The people in the ISS would be constantly experiencing the forces of changing directions. But he's fooling his people, and he tests these things out, I think, on Discord, where he's like, well, how will they buy this? Will they buy this? Can I fool them with this? So I think that's how he tests them out to see which of these things are going to get some traction later so that he can spew them out for a while. And of course, these things only have a limited lifespan because he'll just chuck them out. His flat Earth acolytes will gobble it up. They'll do what they do. And then a while later, when he shows up in a debate and somebody knows these words that he's been flapping around for a while, then he's like, oh, it's time to come up with a new one. So there's no dynamic equivalence. That's not how it works. You need to provide the mechanism for the forces, which he doesn't have. We know he doesn't have. If he did, he would just go there instead of doing the dynamic equivalence BS that he's doing. All right, let me read this. We got Kangle 44 says, bad for WItsit that the Papa Clown said it's round. Exactly. That's exactly it. And then the Sun Express says, in today's episode with Fun with GPS Coordinates, I offer the following. Oh my goodness. All right. Zoom out a little. We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to explore some map fun. So, all right. There we go. It is Dafong, Sudan. I need to zoom out a little. I'll let you guys read it yourself. Oh my gosh. All right. I'll leave that up there. Shifty Shady says, if Earth is flat, where do aliens come from? There's no freaking aliens. That was easy. Real Cygnus. Thousands of our finest experts were all fooled by a coordinate transform. It's not technically a coordinate transform. A coordinate transform would be changing from Cartesian coordinates to polar coordinates, or from a three-dimensional Cartesian to a spherical coordinate system, or a cylindrical coordinate system. That's a coordinate transform. This is a little bit different than just a coordinate transform. It's because he's taken the globe and he's flattening it out. That's a projection. So, all right, there you go. Did you all get your chance to read that from the Sun Express? Thank you very much for that little humor.
Relational mechanics, Andreas Cease. And there are many other papers like that exist. So the ironic part is it actually works better. And this is what I like. It works way better. You don't need dark matter. You don't need dark energy. You don't need expansion. You don't need all these made up pseudoscience fairy.
Okay, so again, he goes for it works better because dark matter. Dark matter is not our model. It's a hypothesis. So and he's going from, think about this. He's going from, how do we explain the orbits of the planets? Because that was the topic, the orbits of the planets within the solar system. Well, we do not use dark matter to explain the orbits of the planets in the solar system. So it doesn't work better than our model, because our model, it doesn't work better than our model dark matter, because dark matter is not our model. Our model is gravity, and within the solar system, except for a very minute shifting in the orbit of Mercury, all of it is perfectly fine using Newtonian mechanics. It's all you need for the orbits of the planets in the solar system, except for Mercury. So every bit of it can be predicted. We've got the VSOP 87 ephemeris that has 6,000 years of positions of the planets from out to Uranus. I think it's Uranus, not Neptune. Charted out for 6,000 years. Accurate to 1 arcsecond. Do you have that using your torus field model? Because that would be better than the heliocentric model. You'd have to have that. You'd have to plot out the positions. You can't start by using ours and do a dynamical equivalence of it. That's cheating. You have to use your own geometry. You got to be on your own side there, and then project it out. But you didn't do one single thing. You didn't do step one of getting a model, and that's getting an actual model. All you do is have words. Torus field. That's it. That's the only thing you have.
Tells gravity's been disproven. Everyone knows relativity doesn't even work. We don't have something better.
Wait, what do you mean gravity's been disproven? I mean, gravity exists.
The theory of
right?
relativity. The theory of relativity has been disproven, just like.
So there's his little shift. He says gravity's been disproven, and he's like, "Oh, I meant general relativity." Well, they are distinct from each other. Gravity being mass attracting mass within our inertial reference frame, never been disproven. Never once. General relativity certainly has never been disproven either, because of course, if you did, you would get a Nobel Prize. Congratulations to whoever disproved general relativity. But no, nobody's done that. And it's not because the nameless, faceless they want to keep it, enthroned. No. There are many scientists that are trying hard to debunk, to show the first problem, the first thing that general relativity doesn't accurately predict. They're all trying. One of the satellite experiments, I was watching an interview with the people that did it. And these people that was one of the guys, multiple guys were that were doing it. And they were trying, they're like, this particular, it might have been Gravity Probe B, but whatever it was, it's not relevant to this, what it specifically was, but they're like, here's the predictions of general relativity. We think this experiment might be precise enough to show that it's not correct. They were trying. They wanted to. They were motivated to. And the motivation is that trip to Sweden. That motivation is a big $ amount on the other side of that, and the notoriety that comes with it. That is the thing that you want within science. It's the highest pinnacle you can get is the Nobel Prize. And if anybody ever does falsify or find that little crack in relativity, well, your name is getting on that short list. So it's not that all of everybody's against having it be falsified. It's quite the opposite. And they can't. That's the deal.
Newtonian gravity was disproven before that.
Right. So these are refinements of theories to explain natural phenomenon, but gravity exists, right? And it's different than electrostatic attraction. It's different than magnetic attraction. It's something else, right?
No, I wouldn't say it's the effect of things falling to the earth, right? And it's little g, gravity. Of course it exists. We use it for engineering. We use it to determine weight. Of course it 100% exists. But why? What is it?
See, he had to be honest. This is WItsit was on. He wasn't always. He slipped a little bit. He was on his best behavior. He knew that if he just hand wave rejected that things accelerate downward at a specific rate, that it wouldn't go well for him. He wasn't close enough to the echo chamber or to the vertical where it's just flat earth stuff, right? You come on my channel, you talk about flat earth, the audience, we're all of the same topic. You're not out there to a broader audience. And so they're gonna talk about the nonsense. But he knew he couldn't. So instead he goes a little different angle than he normally would have.
Is there a force pulling everything down to the earth? Well, that's what the globe needs. The evidence for gravity is the way that it's been defined is that, well, the earth can't be a globe without it. But no, actually, density causes things to go up and down. And
dipstick. Seriously.
I think I've done pretty well in the debates, and typically the opponents are not all that worthy, humbly.
You idiot. You absolute idiot. Density does not cause things to go up and down. He just said that. He really just said density causes things to go up and down. He really, really said that. You see, he was on his best behavior. And then he said that. Density is a relationship between the mass and the volume. That's it. It doesn't have a direction, and it doesn't cause things to go up or down. That's how stupid he is. He is such an idiot and a narcissist at the same time that he thinks that that wasn't the dumbest thing that he said. It is the dumbest thing that he said. Density does not cause things to go up or down. But it keeps going.
And
Density.
electrostatics.
Wait. Why does density cause things to go up and down?
Because of buoyancy. So the relative density.
Oh, now it's because of buoyancy. I knew this was coming. Buoyancy has one direction. Up. What makes things go down if you're going to add buoyancy in? Density doesn't. Buoyancy is just up. And buoyancy is a result of G, the down. The whole point of this is what causes the down. So when you say what causes the down, you can't say, oh, it's the up part of it that's a result of the down. That doesn't work because you didn't answer what causes the down.
Density of the objects with the medium, the pressure mediation causes it to go up or down like a ping pong ball floats in water,
Right.
golf ball. See,
All right, platonic cuddler, density only exists because of gravity. No, it doesn't. You can have density without gravity. I hope you're kidding.
It's because of gravity, because buoyancy is an effect of gravity, because without gravity, there'd be no reason for it to go up or down. It would.
Wait.
So, good on Harrison here. I don't know his background. Going into this, I had no idea who Harrison was. I had never watched a single thing of his. I don't watch anything from that whole stupid network. They're all a bunch of, you know how I feel about them. So, I don't know his background. I have to think that to come to the conclusions that he does, that he just can't be that bright. But here he is getting it right. So I don't know. I think that he did. He mentioned it. He has watched several debates. He has watched many of WItSit's debates. So good on him. Good research on his part to have that down. Maybe he knew that before. Maybe he didn't. I think the general population, I think they don't generally know that type of stuff. It's not commonly spoken about if you're outside of the science fields that apply it. So let's hear it again.
It's the idea of gravity, but eventually we did throw little g in there. But like I'm saying, little g isn't a problem for flat Earth at all. It's just the downward acceleration. Little g is not the cause; it's the effect. Everyone knows the effect exists. Things go down when they have weight. Gravity, gravitas, means heavy. How heavy something is. Weight. We don't dispute that. We dispute the claimed cause of gravity. That the bending and warping of concepts called space and time
They're not just concepts.
somehow create illusions where everything shrinks and slows down and makes things fall to the Earth in a straight path that's curving at the same time. That's just all pseudoscience. I actually did a
That's not pseudoscience. That's tested and confirmed. Pseudoscience is not falsifiable. It was tested. It was confirmed. That's the whole point. Popper, the guy who really solidified more than anybody else the demarcation between science and not science. Pseudoscience is on that other side. But he's clear. There are things that don't claim to be science that are not falsifiable. And so they're not called pseudoscience. Writing a newspaper is not pseudoscience. It's not falsifiable. But if it tries to be sciencey and it's not falsifiable, that's what makes it pseudoscience. So flat Earth is pseudoscience because when they say show me the curve and we say we show the curve, which would falsify flat Earth, they say, oh no, that's word salad. You say, okay, well here's another thing. Oh no, that's more word salad, right? There's always this other reason, this other thing. There's always, right? They don't actually, we say, well, what one specific thing could we do? And we'll do it. And then it will falsify it. They will never accept that. So because then that would make it science. So Platonic Cuddler says, for some reason I substituted density for weight. Makes sense now. Could be a Seroquel, could be a Bispiron, or the Xanax. Could be even the blunt I smoked. Dude, if you're popping 3 different things plus a blunt, oh my gosh. I don't know. I don't know what to say other than don't. Don't. All right. Dr. Nimrod said the guy might have done a modicum of research, unlike WItsit, who's basically just being a parrot. Well, WItsit is parroting his own stuff. But WItsit is graduated to the level of making up his own BS. So, yes, so Dr. Nimrod, he definitely did do some research. No doubt about that. He actually mentioned it earlier in there that he had watched some of WItsit's debates. So that's a good thing. Because when Greg Locke and Dean Odell, Greg didn't watch any debates. I don't know if Greg had watched any of Dean Odell's stuff. He was ill prepared for that conversation. So
I want to plug the level documentary. I did a test there where we did actual science, and I used a Vandergraph generator, which manipulates electrostatics, and I made the object.
Sorry, it wasn't on screen.
Change weight, fall at a different rate, go up and down just by manipulating the electric field. And that's what we have on the Earth. We have an electric field that has a 100 volt per meter increase. And when I flipped it with my Vandergraph generator, it made the object float.
Okay, so he didn't just flip. Let me tell you what he did. Because WItsit has no clue about electrostatics, right? I got it right here, WItsit, for you. I got it for you. This is Foundations of Electromagnetic Theory. Does that mean that it doesn't exist? Does that mean it's not confirmed? WItsit doesn't generally do that, but a lot of flat earthers are like, well, theory means it's just a guess. No, it's not. Chapter 1, vector analysis. It's a review of the math that they're going to be using in the book. Typically, in a lot of classes, you wouldn't even do that. You just say, well, there's a prerequisite for the class. You need to have that covered. We're not gonna cover it. Chapter 2. Literally the first day of the E&M class, you're talking electrostatics. First day. Coulomb's law. Here, and then it goes to the electric field, and that uses Coulomb's law to derive. Right here, this is the equation that they use Coulomb's law to derive the electrostatic field equation. And then, that's the limit there. That's I think they go a little farther before they get to the equation. I don't know. Oh, there it is. So there's the equation for the force experienced in an electrostatic field. And then we get to Gauss's law, and right away, first chapter you're studying, we're already into Maxwell's equations and derivations of it. So, and oh, look at that. That's a Gaussian surface there, right? So, anyway, WItsit has no stinking clue about it because he's never studied the topic at all. The extent of what he's looked at is Feynman's lectures. In Feynman's lectures, he doesn't understand. It's definitely beyond his understanding of it. But I'll show you. I'll bring it to it right now. If you just Google Feynman lectures, right there, volume 2, mainly electromagnetism and matter. And so we have here electromagnetism and I think electrostatics. Right there is chapter 4. Oh yeah, you recognize those? Recognize those right there? Oh no, that's not the one that we're looking at. There it is. Chapter 9, electricity in the atmosphere. So let's review this just before WItsit starts flapping his face. Now, I have taken him to task on this particular one before, and he has ignored it. Maybe he hasn't heard it, but right here we have, having suggested we can now measure the electric field in the atmosphere, we now continue our description of it. Measurements show, first of all, that the field continues to exist, but gets weaker. As one goes up to high altitudes by about 50 kilometers, the field is very small, so most of the potential charge, the integral of E, now that word there won't mean anything to WItsit. The integral of E is at lower altitudes. The total potential difference from the surface of the Earth to the top of the atmosphere is about 400,000 volts. Now, you need to have something that is spanning that entire distance to experience a differential of 400,000 volts. If you have something that's significantly smaller, it doesn't experience that electrostatic or electrical potential difference of 400,000 volts, and WItsit doesn't understand that as well. But this is very important. It gets weaker. It gets weaker. Remember that. It gets weaker.
So I proved that that's a cause of things falling down and why they fall down. And that every object that exists is electrostatic. So.
I mean, there's just so many things wrong with that. Obviously, it's not buoyancy. Buoyancy only exists because of gravity. If you had a tank of water out in space where there's no noticeable gravitational force, then you could put a beach ball in the center of the water. It would stay in the center of water. There would be no up for it to float to. So, buoyancy is an effect of the gravitational pull of the Earth. Gravity is obviously not electrostatic. You can counteract gravity with forces. Obviously, I can counteract gravity by picking this up. That doesn't mean gravity doesn't exist. You can't affect gravity itself with electrostatic or electromagnetism. You can't block gravity with a lead wall, right? Nothing blocks gravity. So, I mean, it's just obviously not electrostatic or magnetic or any other force that we can.
WItsit is so much in pain right now. He just wants to jump in, but he knows he can't
Manipulate because we can't manipulate gravity, except, they probably can with the Bell experiment and other, secret technology that they have that we all know they have. We'll be back on the other side. One more long chunk.
Okay, man, that had to burn him up. So WItsit's like, I proved that gravity is electrostatics by flipping the field. So let me talk about that for a second, because I've seen what he did there. He didn't yet get into the part of the atmosphere that I talked about yet, but so he does talk about the atmosphere a little bit. So there's 100 volts per meter electrostatic charge in the air. This is very important. Right here, see this diagram here? This diagram is on the top. I'll kind of have you just see that one there. That diagram there is one diagram. There you go. So you've got the ground there at 0 volts, and then you have this voltage going up 100 volts per meter. And then this diagram where the person is there and the electrostatic field curves around it. The potential distribution above the Earth, the potential distribution near a man in an open, flat place. Buildings, trees will all do this. So inside of a building, the electrostatic field doesn't have this big 100 volt per meter differential. Per WItsit's favorite citation, it's not there. So inside of a building, it's not there. But let's imagine, let's just grant that for a second. I love doing this. Let's grant them their incorrect claim for a second. Inside that building, you've still got that same, let's imagine it. So 100 volts per meter, well, that's 10 volts per 10 centimeters, right? So it's 1 volt per centimeter. So he had 2 plates in his little experiment with his Vandergraph generator. He had 2 plates, and he had a little piece of like styrofoam in there. He's such an idiot. He's so dumb. And he had this little piece of styrofoam on the bottom, and he used a Vandergraph generator to generate some number of tens of thousands of volts. Now, these plates are all of maybe 10 centimeters apart, maybe 20 centimeters apart. So it's a difference, according to the diagram, of maybe 10 to 20 volts. So to flip the field, all he needs to do is apply 10 or 20 volts the other direction, certainly 30, 40, maybe 100. 100 would absolutely do it. And if that is causing the downward direction, then that little piece of styrofoam at that low voltage flip would then go up. And everything in it would also do that. A hunk of lead would also do the same thing. But he only did a little piece of styrofoam. Now, I have tested that myself. I haven't yet. I've got photographs. I haven't done the video yet. So, but testing all of his claims based on all of these things here that he doesn't understand. Now, if you he invented this Gaussian surface. He says that the ground is one Gaussian surface and that somewhere up higher is another Gaussian surface. There's a few problems with that. In a tunnel underneath the earth where the ground is where you don't have that 0 volts anymore, right? It's all 0 volts. So when you're underground, then you should just have free fall. There's no more direction at all. Or maybe it should go up toward that 0 Gaussian surface, but that doesn't happen at all. I've personally been inside tunnels. I've been in caves. I don't know. Am I the only one that's ever been in a cave? No! Millions of people have, and they did not flop up to the ceiling. They didn't have to walk upside down. So Glober Mom, yes, McFlatty did test those claims. You should go look on his channel. Anyway, so yeah, so sometimes people say, well, a Gaussian surface needs to look like it does in the book, and I'll show you. Right here, right? It's these little potato diagrams that they have all over the place in the book. That there's tons of them, right? Those are all the. But you can a plane extending in effect a long distance, effectively, infinitely can do it. No, Stringer is one. It is Pizza Earth. He says Stringer is one. Says it's not a valid Gaussian surface, but it is. I don't know. All right, I'll see if I can find it quick in the book here, because it does detail what is a valid surface. I've seen it. I don't know if I've seen it in this book. Gauss's law, closed. Yeah, they're talking about closed surfaces. So these potatoes are closed surfaces. But, well, I mean, you probably know where I'm going with this. Anyway, yeah. An infinite plane counts as a closed surface. So for that, you could consider the disk of the Earth to be an effective infinite plane, right? So yeah, it needs to be infinite if flat. It doesn't, to be effective, it doesn't have to be infinite. It has to be effectively infinite, right? We don't want to parse those kinds of details. But you've got a couple problems then. Is the dome coming down and touching the surface? Because if it is, then we're on the inside of a closed surface, and all of it's different because now the dome and the surface are now in contact with each other. They're all gonna equalize. So he has to throw out the dome. There's no more firmament dome. You see, you just ran into the fourth law of Flerf. That doesn't work now. Which is it? Is there a dome or is there not a dome? Right? And a lot of let's go and explore past Antarctica, they've gotten rid of the dome. And here's, they get into flat Earth thinking, oh, well, there's a dome. It's in Antarctica. Let me show you this encyclopedia from whatever, where the dome is in Antarctica. But then they get a little farther in, they're like, oh, well, we're going to have to throw that one out because that doesn't quite work with our newest problem that we're trying desperately to solve. So that now the dome has to be also an infinite plane that does not come down to the surface. It doesn't touch. It can't touch anymore. So that's the position he's put himself in. But of course, that still doesn't explain what happens when you go underneath the Earth, because you're now on the other side of that Gaussian surface. So there must be a gap between the dome and the ground. Well, what keeps the dome up? Right. So whether like they draw the pictures where there's the dome coming down to the edge, it doesn't work. They're just making up crap. All right. I'm getting a little behind here. So all right. So here they're going to break. Their commercials are no fun. All right.
A bit that I'd like to get into, and then I want to get into the aspects of the conspiracy that would be necessary to contain this lie if the round Earth is in fact a lie. But let's talk about sort of one of the other claims of the Earth's atmosphere existing next to a vacuum. Again, this seems on first blush, it's like, oh, yeah, wait, why does that happen? How is that the case? We've got an atmosphere here. We've got a vacuum in space. What is it that stops the atmosphere from going into the vacuum of space? But we get the pressure goes down as we travel up in altitude, right? We get that the atmosphere gets thinner as it goes up. I mean, I don't think you dispute that. So, I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. I know, you say that to have air pressure, you have to have a container. But are there containers that are pressurized where there's a gradient? Because there's a gradient in our atmosphere that pretty well explains how the atmosphere sticks to Earth. It's gravity. It doesn't require a container. It requires a force. And in this case, that force is gravity.
Yeah, sure. So you can have a gradient, of course, but you need gas pressure to have a gradient. So it's delta X, change in X. So you need X. You need the gas pressure. And what we're saying is the antecedent, the requirement for gas pressure is containment. You can absolutely replicate a pressure gradient in a container. You cannot replicate one without a container. And we see that the dispersal of gas is omnidirectional. It goes.
But it's not. The dispersal of gas is not omnidirectional, because gas is more collected near the ground and less collected together, less bunched up at higher elevation. So you need to provide a mechanism for what's causing that, and it's not electrostatics.
Directly up, in the face of this alleged force that's not a force that's pulling everything down. Supposedly gravity is holding air, gas, next to a vacuum, but gas disperses in all directions instantly.
No, it doesn't. It's quick. Not going to parse that. Not going to get pedantic on it's not instant, but it happens quickly. Yes, and it equalizes at the speed of sound. So if there is no force pulling the air down, as you say there is none, then that pressure differential must equalize at the speed of sound. So from sea level up to the top of a mountain, there's a significant differential in pressure. They would equalize, as you said, instantly, but it doesn't. It doesn't equalize instantly. What happened to the second law of thermodynamics, Austin? The second law of thermodynamics, flat earthers think that means whatever they think it means. They think it means that air pressure has to equalize, but it doesn't. It's easy to show that it doesn't.
So yes, we do have a pressure gradient on the Earth, but the requirement for that is an actual contained system that the gas can then begin to attempt to equalize within.
But no, that's not even the case. So gravity. So take a universe, and have particles loosely distributed, and now take a mass. Have no particles yet associated to the mass. Just a blob of a large blob of something that has it's very dense, and then just have it appear in empty space with just these small numbers of particles around. Make it the size of the Earth and the mass of the Earth, but it doesn't yet have any of its own air, and right, and now just put it in space. Those particles that are out there in space would then be pulled towards it because of gravity or whatever causes the downward acceleration. So then they would not disperse equally. They would pull down and they would bunch up, and there would be more of them close to the surface and a smaller number of them a little bit away from the surface, and an even smaller number of them even farther away from the surface. So none of that requires a physical barrier. There's no membrane needed for that. There's just gravity, which has been empirically confirmed, and your word salad didn't make it go away.
Give you a gradient. Just like if you have liquid propane or any type of gas, not liquid, but any type of gas in a container, there's going to be a gradient. There's going to be more gas at the bottom
because
confined within that. But it's not, but it's in a container. So
but why? He won't propose why. Well, he does. He does in a little bit. You listen for it. You tell me what you think in the chat. Tell me what you think he's about to say about why there is more pressure near the surface of the earth than at elevation.
So as soon as I remove the container, right, it's going to disperse. Obviously, that's why sodas make the little sound, right? Because the pressure is equalizing to the pressure around it. So that's our point, is that you can say gravity, but where gravity is supposedly the strongest at the surface of the earth, gas goes in all directions, including directly up, and it goes directly into a vacuum. Gravity's not holding it down there. But supposedly where gravity is weaker, next to a 10 to the negative 17 torr vacuum, somehow it just sits there and it doesn't go and fill the available space, which is
He just kind of contradicted himself there. Where gravity is weaker, it doesn't go fill the available space. He really doesn't get that. He's not helping himself out here, does he? Flat earthers say this all the time. It doesn't. Air doesn't fill the available space. In the dome, it doesn't fill the available space because it's less pressure up at the top of the dome. Why?
antithetical to, you know,
well, it's just a countervailing force. I mean, if you have a molecule of air that floats up to the top of the atmosphere and then floats out of the atmosphere, and now it's not surrounded by anything, it's all, for all intents and purposes, in a vacuum, it's still being affected by the gravity of Earth, and it'll drift back to Earth. I mean, what is the force that's pulling it away from the other air molecules in a vacuum? I mean, again, this really doesn't seem that all that complicated to me. I mean, the gravity pulls the air down. The air, you know, close to the surface of the planet is thicker because that's where gravity's pulling everything. But, you know, air is light enough to float because of buoyancy or density. It doesn't all fall straight down to the Earth. This is just an effect of gravity. Again, you don't need a container to explain this. You just need a force that is working on the molecules to keep them attached to Earth, right? I mean, again, I don't get how this is, a container is not necessary.
Like I said, though, like we're claiming a force is pulling the gas down to Earth, but gas goes in all directions, including directly up.
In violation, he's about to say.
Violently. It's the second.
Oh, violently. It's the second
law of thermodynamics.
No, it's not. So his understanding of the second law of thermodynamics is that it must fill available space. But it doesn't. So obviously the second law of thermodynamics, as he proposes it, it's wrong, but as he thinks it exists, isn't happening. Even on his flat Earth, because it's not equally distributed in all directions. And he already agreed that there's a gradient. Think about that. He doesn't have all this put together. And somebody said who is it? Yeah, all right. Dylan Dorsch says he's been corrected on this many times. He just lies to himself and everyone else who will listen. Such a clown. He's two things. He's too dumb to understand when people tell him that he's wrong, number one. Number two, he believes his lies because he's a narcissistic, pathological liar. Right? So, I don't know. He hasn't gotten to the cause of the gradient that he says yet. We'll get there.
To quote Arthur Eddington, any idea or theory you have that's contrary to the second law is just completely, inexcusable and dead on its face. But you're saying that the gravity is...
Okay, this is funny. This is the quote again. He just quoted Arthur Eddington. Arthur Eddington, 1919 eclipse guy, definitely did not think that the Earth was flat. Definitely agreed with general relativity, the guy that is the most famous one for doing the most important initial test of general relativity. And he's quoting him trying to say, if you propose something that contradicts the second law of thermodynamics, then you're wrong, basically. Well, Austin, he didn't have a problem with the atmosphere next to, as you say, the vacuum. He didn't have a problem with that. Do you think that he just missed that? This is how stupid Austin is. Austin is so stupid that he misses things like this. And because he's so stupid and misses things like this, he thinks that somebody else would be stupid enough to miss something like this. Right? If this was how the second law of thermodynamics actually worked, and if that was how gravity actually worked, Eddington did not miss that. That's not what happened. What happened is that you don't understand what's going on. You missed, Austin, that there is a pressure differential. That pressure differential, as you apply the second law of thermodynamics, doesn't work with your dumb understanding of the second law. So it's on you, Austin. And Eddington didn't have any problems with it. So quoting him and then at the same time claiming he's wrong. That's what you're doing, because he says that the Earth is a globe. He also says that relativity is a thing. So, and he also was not the nameless, faceless they Zionist or atheist that's trying to promote something. Arthur Eddington was a very devout Seventh-day Adventist. A Quaker. Very devout Quaker. He was the opposite of all of the things that you accuse all the people that disagree with you on. So it's that Austin is dumb. It has to be that he's that stupid.
Is basically pulling the air back down in the face of a vacuum. But where does the gravity of Earth stop affecting gas then, right? Because the gravity of
it doesn't.
the Earth doesn't extend the entire universe. And so the air is still going to fill the available space, and it fills the available space.
But it doesn't. It doesn't fill the available space.
On the surface, where gravity would be the strongest. So very simply, it's very easy to replicate what we have on the Earth. With a container, you can create a gradient, certainly with all the gas that's been introduced to the surface level and the gas cycle.
Do you hear that? There it was. Gas introduced at the surface level. I'm going to try to back that up just a tiny bit.
You cannot replicate it without a container. So that's the argument. And gravity, again, has actually been disproven. And we've proven our understanding of gravity, which is that very simply, it's very easy to replicate what we have on the Earth. With a container, you can create a gradient, certainly with all the gas that's been introduced to the surface level and the gas.
So with the container, and then he says gas introduced at the surface level. That's what he thinks is causing the gradient. He thinks that gas is created out of nothing at the surface level. The, as he says,
gas cycle and
the gas cycle. He thinks that the gas cycle, he thinks that plants create new oxygen that wasn't there before. He thinks that people create new carbon dioxide that wasn't there before. He calls it the gas cycle. The gas cycle is not the creation of brand new gases that were not there before. It's not matter that didn't exist. Carbon dioxide, CO2, is brought into a plant. A plant does something with it, takes the carbon, leaves the oxygen, and then the oxygen goes out. CO2 in, O2 out. Gas in, gas out. People inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. Gas in, gas out. There wasn't gas created. It's the same amount of gas. Right? Carbon dioxide versus oxygen. It's got a carbon on it. It's a little more dense. A little more weight. Mr. Uman says, I've had fun in the chat today. Thank you to all the wonderful people. I hope to see you all next time. Next time will be Friday. Got a double header there. All right. Keep going.
Temperature and the density differences, but you cannot replicate it without a container. So that's the argument. And gravity, again, has actually been disproven. And we've proven our understanding of gravity, which is that it's electric.
No, you haven't. If it was electric, then that electric field right here, this electric field, it's more. It's increasing positive as you go up. Even the slightest negative charge object would go up. The very slightest negatively charged object would go up. Further, and WItsit. Oh, he hates this. He hates this. Same thing here. There it is. This one here. In the vicinity of a storm, of a thunderstorm, you have positive on the ground. Look at that. You see that there? That's the opposite. Right underneath the storm, you got positive on the ground. And over to the right, you see there's negative on the ground where it's not in the vicinity of the storm. And the clouds, look at that. The clouds, not right in the middle there, to the side of where it's the rain is happening. It's negative at higher elevation. So the field is flipped in the vicinity of a storm. According to WItsit, in the vicinity of a storm, everything must accelerate up. Everything. He said he proved it was electrostatics. Then absolutely 100% everything would accelerate up in the vicinity of a storm. What an absolute clown you are, WItsit. You have no damn clue what you're talking about. And all of your idiots that listen to you and think, ooh, he's really smart. They're just really, really stupid, gullible, and easily indoctrinated. That's what's happening. Dave McKeegan is awake. He says, how can WItsit claim space breaks the law of thermodynamics, but then make a claim about producing gas, which breaks the law of conservation of mass? Never mind that. Platonic Cuddler, they're dumber than WItsit, which is sad. Yeah, I mean, you think about it. Generally, somebody can't fool people that are smarter than that person. They have to be dumber than that person. So everybody fooled by WItsit is dumber than WItsit.
You've proven it with experiments. So,
but
that would be like
so you can affect gravity with electricity.
what people call gravity, which is the effect of things falling down, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I can take electrostatics and I can make things go up. And actually, when you brought up the bell, that's what they did. They actually used what they call ether physics. I have a really good book on it. It's called The Bell. And they use electrogravitic propulsion. So of course, the Nazis back in like as early as 20s and 30s, they had these UFOs. They were using the electric nature of the environment to make things quote unquote levitate and defy material physics.
It just goes off into left field here.
They weren't using an anti-gravity device that bit space and time. It was electrogravitic propulsion. They actually they called Einstein's theory mysticism, and they applied what they called ether physics. That's been hidden and suppressed. They went in and grabbed all of Tesla's work, and now they say that
So, oh man, the very first time I debated WItsit, they went and stole all of Tesla's work. So Tesla was unmarried. And so when unmarried people die and they don't have a next of kin, what happens? What happens? I don't know. If none of you have had to deal with that, that's good. I have not had to deal with that, but we've been made aware as my parents are getting older, of what types of things happen when they pass away. And if you don't have any next of kin, then it goes to the state. The state deals with it. So they didn't go in and steal all of his work. There was nobody to receive the work. There was no next of kin, to my knowledge. Right? So it wasn't stolen. And so WItsit thinks that when I first talked to him, I asked him, well, what is gravity? I've got F equals G M1 M2 over R squared. And you've got, and then silence. This is absolutely critical. The downward acceleration, you need to provide the actual prediction, because we've got it. We can tell you for any location on the Earth with a high precision what the specific downward acceleration will be. You can't even explain using real physics why things go down. Right? Because when we apply real physics, then in the vicinity of a storm, according to your claims, things have to go up. According to your claims, if you rub anything on a cat, that thing now is negatively charged. It must go up. None of it works. So yes, Tesla married a pigeon. So the pigeon should have gotten his work. So WItsit thinks, WItsit's like, Tesla wrote in the border, the gutter of a book, that he figured out some alternative to gravity. That's it. It's just this little passing thing. And they went and stole all of his stuff when he died. No, they didn't. They didn't steal it. And you're hanging all of this on he wrote something in the column of a book. That's the version of gravity that the first time I talked to Austin, that was the version of gravity that he ascribed to. The version that nobody's ever seen. What a desperate loser that position that is. I'm going to take something that has absolutely no idea, and nobody has any idea what it is, but that's definitely the real one. And not the one that everybody's actually empirically confirmed. But yes, Tesla knew the Earth was a sphere.
Einstein is correct. And of course, we have no technology. All the technology the military is using for these devices, I guarantee you, is electric. Because like I said, in science, you have a
guarantee
naturally occurring observable phenomena, dependent variable. You try to figure out what causes it. So things fall down. What causes it? Well, let's say it's electrostatics. Let's test it. We're going to manipulate that. I did that. And I can make the object go up, float.
He can't make lead do that. Greg is here. Hey, FTFE. Morning, folks. Remember, the moon is just a black ferrocell etherically charging to make the phase.
Make it fall down faster. And on the Earth, we have an electric field. And everything that exists is electrostatic. Everything's electric. Right? So it would be...
Everything that exists is, yeah, that's true. But generally, most things are neutrally charged because there's equal numbers of positive and negative. WItsit has no clue at all that Coulomb's law says that, seriously... It's probably the very first words out of the professor's mouth in an electrostatics course. Positive, repel. Negative, repel. Positive, negative, attract. There's two charges. With downward gravity, there's only one. There's just mass. There's just one. So it doesn't explain a thing. Yes. The military is not using those things.
It's sane to think that it doesn't have something to do with everything being electric because that's 10 to the 36th power stronger than gravity's even claimed to be on the smallest scale.
Now, he loves to say that. He has no idea what that means. No idea at all. I can tell you what it means. I can tell you. It's purely a hypothetical situation. Let's take two protons and let's set them 1 meter apart from each other. And now let's calculate the force, the Coulomb force between them, between these two protons. There's no electrons there. It's just two protons. Let's calculate the Coulomb the force due to Coulomb's law between them, and they're going to be repelling each other. All right, well, now let's take the force between them of gravity by taking their mass and applying the law of gravitation. And they're going to be pulling towards each other. So you've got that pull and you've got that push of two protons 1 meter apart. And that relationship is the number that he just quoted. The problem is if you have one proton and one electron, then their electrostatic, their Coulomb's law force between them is exactly 0. And the mass, or the gravitational attraction between them is non-zero. Meaning that the gravitational force is, let's see, what's the limit of non-zero over x as x approaches 0? What is that? What is that, chat? That approaches infinity. That means that gravity is infinity times more powerful than electrostatics. Oh my goodness. You see, it's just this arbitrary, ridiculous thing that he's quoting. He doesn't know where it came from. He couldn't have come up with that number himself. But he's pushing himself off as if he's smart, and idiots will believe it.
So it's one of the biggest
Right, but that doesn't disprove gravity. Again, electric currents have or electric they have properties that gravity doesn't have. So it just can't be the same thing, and you can't block it. You can't really affect it. I mean, there may be hidden technology like the bell that are able to manipulate gravity, but they're not doing it in a way that is easily replicable, I don't think. And yeah, again, you can counteract the force of gravity, but I don't think you can actually manipulate it. I think that might be an illusion of what's happening there. But all of this to the side, all of the perception versus reality, or what we can see and what explains it, the conspiracy necessary to keep this lie going. If round Earth was a lie, it is so impossibly vast. I mean, it just makes no sense. There's no payoff for it other than maybe moderately affecting people's willingness to believe, which again, it's like, the idea that we're in a firmament or that we're the center of the earth. I mean, nothing in God's creation, proves God. That's sort of like one of the aspects of it, right? There are lots of things that could prove God, that would be miraculous, that you could go, oh my, there's nothing other than God that explains this. Yeah, Earth being at the center of the universe would be one of those things, but it's not, because it's not, right? It's not the center of the earth, so it doesn't prove that. But nothing in creation proves that. So this idea that, I guess it's almost like contradictory. We're like, yeah, if we were in a giant, celestial hamster cage with the firmament over us, it would prove that God exists, but also in a weird way, that's not what God does. So it would prove that something other than God exists. It would, that doesn't make any sense to me. And then you've got just tens of thousands of people working on space programs. Let me give an example. I have a friend about 10 years ago. He was working for a company that built the titanium aluminum rings that connected satellites to the vessel that took them into space. So you've got a small company with about 4 or 5, Ivy League doctorate engineers that are working on building these rings to attach the satellite to the rocket. And that's just one company of thousands that exist out there. Are they in on it? Are they being fooled? Do you have another company that's coming up with the false information to feed to them, to make them think that when they go to watch the satellite launch, are they just watching the thing they built fly into the sea, and then somebody else is launching a balloon that just looks like a satellite? I mean, explain some of this to me, because the conspiracy necessary to carry this out is so vast, it's just nonsensical.
That's a great line of questioning from Harrison, and for sure that WItSit's about to not answer it. Because they're like, it's compartmentalization. You think about this. So let's take his example. People design and build and manufacture and test and deploy and send, and then get sent back to get fixed, and then send again, and then go through the actual testing of the materials, and then find that it didn't work, and then they bring it back and they fix it, right? This whole process of doing these tests for this was an airlock ring or something like that. So some small, relatively, not hyper complicated, not a whole bunch of software involved. It's not a whole bunch of electronics. It's just, right, some airlock stuff, right? They're making it, and WItsit is now going to have to say that they made it to never be used. Right? It can never be used. It needs to go and dump into the ocean and never go to space. Right? And so then when you get the video of the capsule or whatever it was that was going to dock with the ISS or do whatever that particular thing was going to do, there's going to be video of it at some point. The engineers from the company are going to review that video, because they're going to need to be involved in future revisions of that particular thing, or it's going to be, well, yeah, it was good. It did what it was supposed to as designed, or it didn't. All of those things then have to be addressed later for another round. So that video that they're fed has to be faked. Any engineering design flaws that they have in it have to be identified by somebody on the other side of the curtain, right? And then replicated when it's actually faked being used, right? You think about that. There's a flaw in the seal, right? It's say it's an airlock or something, and there's a seal in there, and if there's a flaw in the seal, that would really have a problem if you were in that particular environment. Well, then the people on the other side of that curtain would have to find that flaw, make sure that they get that flaw built into the feedback that they're going to get from the system that they're going to want to then feedback to the designers, so that they know that they need to fix it for the next time. You need at least as many skilled and qualified engineers on the other side of the compartmentalization curtain, fooling everybody on this side of the compartmentalization curtain in order to fool them. Think about that. And that's probably an understatement. It probably would need to be more, because a simple thing like that is not a whole lot compared to more complex things like software systems, where you can have a bug in a software system that might not show up until it happens for real. And then it's a problem. And here's the cool thing. This has happened. The engineers then on the Earth are like, oh, well, there's a problem with that. Look at that. We better fix that. They go into their code, they fix it, they get a new build, and then they send it. They upload it to the device. Now, if it's been compartmentalized and faked, where is that device? Is that device non-existent? Is that device existing, but somehow they're feeding it wrong information to fake it? Has that device instead been put on a Satelloon? Right? However that's done, in order to fake it to the other people that are actually interacting with it, that are writing the code and sending the code change to it. How did they do that? You have to have a cadre of at least the same skill and same number of people on the other side doing all of that shadow work. It's ridiculous to claim that. The amount of people that would have to be involved. You cannot just word salad by saying compartmentalization. That doesn't explain it. You have to fool engineers that designed these actual products that are interacting with it. Good luck with that.
Yeah, so it would be, like I said, to use the adoption analogy, it'd be like, is everyone in the church, in your school, in your community in on the lie? Like, no, they believe the lie.
See, he didn't even touch it.
Satellites aren't a problem for flat Earth. I know that many flat earthers will say that, they don't necessarily believe in them and that they think there's a lot of balloons. And there is a classified, very, very advanced balloon project that is going on, and it is conducting a massive surveillance on the public.
It's classified. How does he know about it?
This is just a fact.
Yeah.
But yeah, like a immense fleet of military surveillance balloons, and NASA's the number one purchaser of helium in the world, and this is true. But
NASA's not military. NASA's not the number one purchaser of helium in the world, and if they were, it's not evidence of it. It's just a coincidence.
Satellites are not a problem for flat Earth. That's just a belief that it is, but it's not. Actually, the satellite equations use geocentric physics and equations. They use real inertial forces as if the Earth is stationary in what's called an Earth-centered, Earth-fixed frame, or an
So none of that works for flat Earth, though. Right? Yeah, when you launch a satellite, you aren't calculating the satellite's movement around the solar system or around the galaxy. You are generally calculating its position in relation to the Earth. That's it. ECEF, Earth-centered, Earth-fixed, or Earth-centered inertial, ECI. Those are the only two things that you need to do, but they all have the Earth as a globe.
ECI, Earth-centered inertial frame. And it's not to get all into the technical aspects. Satellites are not exclusive at all to a globe Earth or a moving Earth. In fact, it's exclusive.
So think about that. He said geocentric globe Earth, geocentric globe Earth, and he's talking about a Robert Sungenis conversation that he had and some other conversations he's had with geocentrist globers. And yes, I completely agree. You can calculate up to a certain amount. You can calculate all of the forces needed using a geocentric stationary Earth. But now listen to this.
To a stationary Earth based on the physics and equations they use, and then for it to be on a plane Earth, it would just be an ellipse. But to answer your question precisely,
it's not an ellipse.
Wait, hold on. It would be an ellipse? I mean, what does that mean? So satellites exist. They're floating above us, above the atmosphere, but they're just continually circling a plane?
Yeah, they certainly could be, right? Like I've seen Starlink myself. I've watched launches myself. I know that there's what people call Starlinks in the sky. It's not a problem at all because it's just a coordinate system transform from a globe to a plane, and the actual physics and equation treat the Earth as if it's stationary.
No, it doesn't.
All right. So he said it's an ellipse, but it's not on flat Earth. They've already had the pictures, and he already said that the torus and the flower of life explains it. So here it is. Here is an example of a satellite that he says works for flat Earth. Well, it's more bigger ones. Yeah. Now it's just now going to be a big mess. If you've seen, Dave McKeegan did a video where he showed what the pattern of the ISS would look like over flat Earth. His was better. So it's not an ellipse. I don't know why I had to lie about that. All right, hold on. I got to catch up on this. FTFE's here. He said, WItsit lied. WItsit never. He would know. No, he's the most honest person. Nope, I couldn't even type it. Yep. I had a little extra for you there, Greg. The Sun Express says North Korea recently finally put a satellite in orbit. I'd really like to know what U.S. department is in charge of fooling those dudes into thinking they've got something in orbit. Exactly. And then FTFE says, how do you know WItsit is lying? His lips are moving.
That should be significant, because it's not just, oh, it's a coordinate system, you can treat it like that because it's from the Earth. No, it's using physics in the equations, and specifically inertial forces, which do not exist in the relativistic flow model. Which
they do exist.
Means if the satellites are up there and they are working, if they're proof of anything, to quote PhD astronomer Gerardus Bow, it's proof that the Earth is stationary and the universe is geocentric. But
well, did you notice that little appeal to authority again? Yep, there it is. Roland My Boulder says also, the comp sci and engineers guys faking the data back to the original design engineers aren't allowed to make bugs or mistakes, else we would detect them. That's an excellent point. Oh man, that's a really good point. When you write software, there's going to be bugs in it. When you're, so those bugs that you're putting onto the actual satellites in orbit on the ISS or in other independent satellites, those bugs are going to exist. You're going to discover them eventually. You're going to have to fix them. The people that are faking it, that are on the other side of that curtain, they can't have bugs in whatever it is they do. They have to be 100% perfect. It's never happened, people. It's never happened. Great point, Roland. Roland, do you want to tell people?
Those people that made the pieces
good news.
See that's a completely fallacious extrapolation. I mean, so ECI, right? Earth-centered inertial coordinates versus ECEF, something like that. Earth-centered, Earth-fixed, right? So both of these are coordinate systems for a spherical Earth. The only difference is one of them takes the spin of the Earth into account, while the other one doesn't. First of all,
I'm impressed that Harrison knew this.
It requires a spherical Earth, first of all, right, for these coordinates to make any sense. They also take into account the spinning of the Earth, meaning it's not stationary. One of them doesn't take into account the spinning of the Earth, but it's not because it's not spinning. It's just because that's not the coordinate system just doesn't rely on the spinning of the Earth. And regardless of any outcome of those, that has nothing to do with whether the sun is circling the Earth. It's about satellites.
I'm not talking about the sun. I'm saying that the actual physics
universe.
Well, yeah, I'm saying that's because they use forces of a rotating universe. They actually treat the universe as if it's rotating and creating real inertial forces, specifically centrifugal, Coriolis.
The universe rotation doesn't create forces.
And Euler forces. And in the globe.
And it's Euler. Oh my gosh. EULER, Euler. Oh my God. You can tell. He has no clue.
Model, those are fictitious forces. They're not real. In a stationary Earth model, the universe is actually rotating around the Earth, creating angular momentum. Satellites would be using.
No, that is just a dream. It's a fantasy that the rotation of the Earth, the distant objects would cause forces locally. That's the Machian principle. It's just a wild idea that's never been substantiated. Oh my goodness.
That on a stationary Earth. Well, that's what the physics and equations show. They treat it as if the universe is rotating around the Earth, creating a real force, and they have to account for them to put the satellites up. And then on a plane, you're right, that is a globe, but on a plane, that's just a coordinate system transform. It becomes an ellipse, and it takes the same flower of life geometry I showed earlier. Actually, one of those depictions was the ISS path.
So he said it's an ellipse, then it's a flower of life pattern. Make up your mind.
right?
So,
And that's just mapped out on a plane.
But continual motion would, in that case, I mean, with an orbit, either continual motion is a consequence of just the fact that there's no wind resistance, and so once your initial velocity basically will be maintained with a little bit of variance because of the tiny amount of atmosphere that does exist outside of what we consider the atmosphere, the 62-mile delineation, which is not a scientific delineation, it's an aeronautical delineation determining whether or not you can fly using
Man, good job. He knows this.
conventional methods or whether you need rocket propulsion. So you can have inertia that exists that continually rocket something around the Earth without additional input. But if something's just floating above a plane, it either needs to be pushed in a way that that's continually being pushed, but even if not, it would need something to change its direction. I mean, how do you explain that? Satellites just floating above us and in a
Deflection will be how he explains it.
ellipses, you would need external forces. That would require fuel. That would be pretty obvious to people building the satellite, right?
And like I said, they use the actual force of the universe rotating around the Earth in the physics and equations. And so
That's just a blatant lie. But that wouldn't explain it anyway. What? You got two things that you need to explain. Because WItsit is gone. It's a new thing with flat earthers now, is to say, oh, satellites do exist, right? They've discovered that you just, it's a failing proposition. They've had too many fourth law of Flerf contradictions. They're like, okay, people, we gotta buck up here. We're gonna have to admit that satellites exist. What's our word salad to explain it away? Yeah. There are two main things that they have to explain. What keeps it up? Right? What keeps it up? It should go down. Whatever causes things to go down needs to work there too, doesn't it? If it's a Gaussian surface, then it's on the downside of the other side of the Gaussian surface. That electrostatic charge is still there. It must still be accelerated down. Something has to stop it from accelerating down. Number one. Number two, it's doing these patterns, constant spirograph patterns. If that was happening, then the people in freefall in the ISS would be constantly feeling that change in direction. But they don't. And it doesn't help you to say that the Machian principle, the inertial forces of the rotating universe, it doesn't explain it, because we'd feel it down here too. Whatever those forces are to somehow cause the spirograph pattern on of the ISS or other things orbiting the Earth. None of that makes sense. None of that works. All right, Roland my bullish says I'm going to spot WItsit on that on Euler because of Euclid. No, he is speaking as if he knows this topic better than people that know this topic. Right? So if you don't know the pronunciation of the things in there at all, if you're just so far off of it, you haven't actually studied it. You haven't done the work on it. It's just a tell that he doesn't have a clue. That's the thing. I'm not a nitpicker on pronunciation. It doesn't say whether or not you're right or wrong. It's an indication of your ignorance if you get something that's very wrong, very well understood to be pronounced one way, and you get it dramatically wrong. Dustin Nemos did not know how to say the Pythagorean theorem. It's taught in middle school, but he had no clue of it. I used it in my first presentation, and he's like, "Oh, haven't you heard of the Pythagorean?" Or I forgot how he said it. He pronounced it wrong, and I said, "Oh, can you say it again?" I made him say it 3 times and did not correct him. So, Roland says, "I just mean I mess up those names too much myself." Okay. But do you think that getting that wrong, is that to you when somebody gets those types of things wrong, Roland? And other people that have studied this topic, does that tell you something? It tells me, right? When people mispronounce, right? Some things people mispronounce. How do you say Huygens? Is it Huygens or Huygens? Right? That one, yeah. But what about what was I gonna say? Oh my goodness. All right, Serena is one. Pronounce Shebeshev? Yeah, I don't. Yep, I can't. It tells me that nobody taught them this stuff. That's what it, yeah, exactly. That's what it tells me. All right, Roland says, honestly, no, because when people mispronounce things, it's because they've only encountered it in reading. I don't want to mock reading. But he's not defending WItsit. Yeah. Schwarzschild versus Schwartz. Yeah, I've heard quite a few different pronunciations, melodic lyrics of Schwarzschild. It's not Schwarzschild. It's now I'm not gonna. I think it's Schwarzschild. I don't know, like it's a shield. Yeah, Halley's Comet versus Halley. All right. Oh, I forgot the one I was. Oh yeah. How would a person who has never encountered this one pronounce it? Type it in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. When you take sine and cosine waves and you build them together to create other patterns, right? So if you build the first, first, third, fifth harmonics of a sine wave, and you can make a close to a square wave. What's that? What is that? And how would somebody who's never actually studied it pronounce it? And you're gonna have to type the mispronunciation of it. That's gonna be tough, right? Coffee troll. Don't say that. Don't say that. That's not Clive Wells. I know you know how to spell it correctly, but how would they pronounce it? How would they pronounce it? Oh yeah, cat ion versus Cations. Roland says for you ear. Yeah. Fourier. I've heard Fourier. It's there 4EA. Yeah, it's a four. I typically say it and but maybe it's not quite right. But I say Fourier. Kind of get a Y sound in there. It's a Fourier transform. Fourier is the spelling. It's French. Fourier, or here we got melodic lyrics is for year. Stringers one says Fresnel. So anyway, a Fourier transform. That's what I say, or an FFT. All right. We're getting close to the end of this here.
So on a stationary Earth, that's it. Instead of the Earth spinning, making the illusion that the sky spins, right? It's actually the sky spinning around the Earth like we observe. That would generate a real force. It would have angular momentum, and there would
no, it wouldn't
be a net inward force. So if you threw something up in it, it would just continually move around with the universe's momentum, the actual angular momentum and force of the universe.
If that's the case, we would feel it here too.
And what I'm pointing out is that's literally the physics and equations that they use.
That's literally not the equations that they use. He doesn't know math, and he's talking about math as if he knows math. What a dickhead.
And
but you're still
that's
describing a spherical Earth.
Well, that's why I point out that the end of it, right? Because that actually is a major problem for heliocentrism. But
you're still talking about the spherical Earth. Oh, that's a major problem for heliocentrism. No, it's not.
The plane is just a coordinate system transform. You could think you're going around a globe, and it would just be an ellipse over a plane, and you would have no idea. It actually
This doesn't pronounce. You didn't produce the forces. The forces all change then.
For a change in velocity, which makes perfect sense with an ellipse. But in the globe model, it's supposedly free falling in a geodesic path, not changing velocity. Yet they actually do account for change in velocity and a change in the speed of light for the signals for GPS. So what they're actually doing and accounting for doesn't work with the model. It's just overlooked. People assume it. I wanted to address what you were asking, though, the meta here, which is like, are these people in on it? No, of course not, bro. They think the Earth's a globe. They think we just use these coordinate systems for convenience sake, right? And it works. It's good enough. Who cares? They think they use Newtonian gravity, even though that's no longer the case. It works good enough. And people make little pieces for it. That's one of the main arguments for Apollo. It's like there were 300,000 people that were all in on it because they made pieces. It's like, no, they compartmentalized the job to everyday Americans. So you would ask me that question, right? So
no.
Such a dickhead. To such a pompous, arrogant piece of filth. To think in your the depravity of your ignorance of how these things are done, of how engineers do their jobs, WItsit. To think that you being so stupid that you could easily be fooled means that other people are as stupid as you. They're not. They could not be fooled as easily as you have been fooled. You can't fake an engineer who designed a system, fake the system as they use the system. You can't do that. All right, Roland, you didn't answer me. Can I say something?
I think it's legit.
That's not how compartmentalization works. I mean, compartmentalization is an aspect of like the military and secret operations. The people who are compartmentalized know they're compartmentalized. The people who are building satellites are in communication with the people building the other parts of the satellite, and they observe it as it flies, and then they get readings, data readings to determine whether or not the mission was successful. So they would have to be fed fake information, or like what happens to, I mean, they think they're launching a satellite into orbit. Are they not? Or is there a parallel industry that's doing the real math and feeding them the fake information? I mean, you get this whole thing just sort of falls apart the more you think about it. And that's not even getting into the secrecy aspect, where you'd have to, again, either have these people who are doing this for decades without even either noticing that something is wrong or admitting or letting it leak out that something is wrong. The scale of conspiracy, especially now with all of these private companies going into space, is so vast. And again, nonsensical, man. If I was the mastermind, the Jesuit priest that figured out that there's a firmament and wants to trick everybody, the last thing I would do would be come up with a lie that would set up generations of having to fake things, right? You could just say, yeah, we tried to go to space. It turns out there's like crazy radiation and everybody dies, so let's not try to leave. Like, there's a million other ways you could do it. You're thinking they went with the strategy of let's fake space travel for the next 100 years, on a continual basis. As a conspiracy theorist, somebody who sits here and thinks and talks about conspiracies every day, this falls utterly, pardon the pun, flat. This makes no sense as a conspiracy at all.
That's all you need. That's it. I could not have said it better than he did. And this is what really gets me about Harrison here. He is a conspiracy theorist. He thinks that there is a secret cabal pulling the strings behind everything. And he's like, to space travelers, like, there could not be a secret cabal because you would have to have a shadow industry. I'm not going to say any more than that. So, all right, Roland said, wait. I was about to tell people, just not when it happened. Okay. Well, Roland my boulder. How about this? I have Roland my boulder is I've been talking with him for quite a while. Every once in a while we'll talk, and he's like, "Hey, you got time for a call?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't have time for a 3-hour call. It's got to be quick." And then it's a 4-hour call. So I haven't talked to him for a while, but recently I connected again, and he's no longer Rolling my boulder. He is now Dr. Rolling my boulder. So congratulations. I'll say that right now. Congratulations, Roland, on becoming a doctor rolling my boulder. Very, very hard work. A lot that you've done. I know quite a while ago you're telling me all of the challenges. And for everybody that thinks that, peer review is just a bunch of people patting themselves on the back, it is certainly not. And Roland's some of his shared experiences of trying to publish some things is exactly the opposite. It is no cakewalk, and you're not just getting accolades because you're agreeing with people. It doesn't matter what you're doing; they want to tear you apart. So, good job. All right. After this, they don't do a whole lot more. There's just a couple minutes left. It's not a whole lot of debate on it, but I will I'll end with this one thing here.
I think I've done pretty well in the debates, and typically the opponents are not all that worthy, humbly.
Dickhead.
I think I've done pretty well in the debates, and typically the opponents are not all that worthy, humbly.
That's the opposite of humble. All right. Well, let's see. There we go. I am debating to Corey on gravity. Hey, we talked about it a lot tonight. I have no idea what kind of derp he's going to have, but he seems to think that he's going to provide an explanation for the specific magnitude, right? Sometimes getting somebody to debate, there's this line that I walk, because if I push them too hard to do something, I know they can't. Right. I know that no flat earther can produce a specific 9.8 meters per second squared explanation. They can't. So how far do I push them to try to get them to output that? I can only go so far before they're like, no, I'm out. And I don't want that to happen. I want them to show up and bring something. I want to see what it's going to be. I'm excited for it. I liked it, Corey. I think it's going to be fun. So that's on Modern Day Debate, 8 o'clock. And then at 11 o'clock is Friday night, late night, with Captain Cook and his e-girl, who is a John Zerka fan. Yes. She's a flatty because of John Zerka. I don't think I've ever debated somebody whose Papa Flurf is John Zerka. So anyway, Roland posted something. It looks like I'm gonna have to look at it.
Have we received?
Oh, I don't know if I can play that. Oh, sorry. I'm not going to, I'll watch it later, but I can't play that right now just because of the copyright risk. It's a Spies Like Us clip. And it's long enough that I could get a little bit of a strike. So is Mikey Smith anyone's Papa Flurf? No. Warning, says Stringer News 1, Captain Cook is not a real captain. Oh my gosh. Oh, he's so funny. He is funny. If nothing else, he's funny. And I have no clue about his e-girl. He calls her his e-girl. I'm like, is she an e-girl? Like, is she all emo? Is she kind of a dark sider? Does she listen to emo music? Does she dye her hair black and wear black makeup? He's like, no, she's just online. I'm like, well, you totally ruined it. Does she at least wear cat ears? No. Well, stink. Anyway, that's going to be after Modern Day Debate, so we'll be looking out for that. Anyway, thank you everybody for the super chats, for the support, for the clicking the like button, for just being here and enjoying a good time, chuckling about the derpiness that is Flat Earthers. We'll see you next time. Here we go.
MC2, drop that beat.
All right. Let it flow. Let yourself go. So I know that is the tempo.
So, yeah, let's do this.
Let's do this. Yo, it's MC2, the debunking tycoon. I shatter flat earthers, make them face the moon. Your attempts are decent, but they'll swoon in the face of my logic like a deflated balloon.
Oh, MC2, the one soon cartoons. On your real say, send it first to their views. Your theories are like old brews, sweeping ignorance or just spreading the views.
FDFB stands for fumbling the facts, evidently. I drop truth bombs so splendidly. Your approach is soft, mine's unrelenting. I bring the science while you're just venting.
MC2, the flipping with silver spoons. I tackle pseudoscience, make them change their tune. You're the sidekick, I'm the room. When it comes to debunking, I'm the room.
Here we are now, entertainers, I'm alive.
boom. In the rizzle dizzle.
But hey, FTFE, we share the creed to educate and debunk the plant the seed. Though in this rap, it's clear indeed I got the upper hand than word indeed.
All right, hold on a second. The Zoom call died. Everything died. No.